Mr. Ballantyne.
Here.
Mr. Sanders.
Here.
Mr. Swindle.
Here.
Mr. Blosh.
Here.
Mr. Daly.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We have a full 5 voting members for today, so we're good to go. Please silence your phones, any electronic devices, anything like that, and I am the worst culprit of all. Please silence those. Any appeals to the decision of this board should be directed to the 22nd court. Speaker cards are available to my right, your left on that table there, but if something, we'll try to work people in as efficiently as we can. For public speaking today, there will be 10 minutes allotted to the case, and 10 minutes for anybody in opposition to that. And then after that, each side would have an additional 5 minutes to talk. So it's 10 for the case, 10 for any objection, and then 5 for each side for rebuttals. And then as soon as your case is heard, I would ask that you please exit quietly and quickly so we can get on with things. We've got 11 cases for today, so it's going to be very busy. Next, I would like to approve the minutes. Anybody got any comments on the minutes?
I watched the video and read the minutes, and the minutes were great, so thank you.
So I think we have a motion from Mr.
Sure, I'll make a
Daly
motion, yeah.
to approve the minutes. How about a second?
Second.
Please vote with your screen.
Motion carries. All in favor.
Okay, now, we have a special request. We have a family here represented today. Mr. Barnett, we have a family represented here today, has a special needs child and needs to get out to meet and I would like to move case number 9 up to be the first case. And so I would like I got a motion from Mr. Blosh to move number 9 case to the first position. And a second, please. Second by Mr. Daly. All, please vote with your screen. Thank you for your cooperation.
All in favor.
So without further ado, we'll start with case number 9. This is a BOA case 3537. A request by applicant and a planned unit development to reduce the required rear yard setback from 10 feet to 5 feet to allow for the construction of an accessory structure. Property is located at 340 Old Place Lane, Madisonville, Louisiana, Ward 1, District 1. The applicant and representative are Dwayne and Christina Hector. Staff comments, please.
The applicant is requesting to reduce the required rear yard setback to 5 feet to allow for the construction of a 16 by 17.5 or 280 square foot accessory structure. No evidence or hardship or practical difficulties has been demonstrated to warrant the support of the requested variance. As informational items, the Rayford Oaks Homeowners Association provided a letter of support in regards to the requested variance, and the property is abutting a preserved green space area in the rear.
Who is here to represent this case, or please come forward, state your name and address, please, and your affiliation to this case.
Yeah, sure. Dwayne Hector, 340 Old Place Lane, homeowner.
Christina Hector, 340 Old Place Lane, homeowner.
And do you have anything to add that you'd like to say about your application?
I think you guys pretty much summed it up. We're just looking to move the setback from 10 feet to 5 feet, just to accommodate it.
Okay. Then if you would just step to the side a second.
Okay.
Is there anyone here at this time that is in opposition to this request? Seeing none, open it to the board for any comments or questions. See none. Would someone? Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Mr.
I was just
Block.
going to speak, Mr. Chairman, I don't see any issue with this variance request. A couple of things. Obviously, the homeowners association is in full agreement with it. That's always a plus. Number two, like I said, looking at that space behind them, you know, I don't think it presents a problem for anyone in the subdivision, considering that that's going to be open space anyway. So we've approved these on a regular basis. I don't see any reason to deny it.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, sir, I'll move that the variance be,
Mr. Blige has made a motion to approve
I wasn't finished.
this variance as requested. Do I hear, anybody want to make a second?
Well, I want to finish my motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I want to make a motion that the variance request be accepted as submitted. And that's it. I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you. How about a second on that? Second from Mr. Saunders. Any other discussion? Please vote with your screen.
All in favor?
Approved. Good luck.
Thank you guys so much, and thank you, Helen, for walking us through this process. Yeah, first time, so appreciate it.
Okay, so now we will proceed with case number 1. This is BOA case number 3430. Request by applicant in an HC2 Highway Commercial Zoning District to appeal the decision of a parish official regarding the issuance of a land clearing permit and building permits. The property is located at 72147 Military Road, Covington, Louisiana, Ward 3, District 2, and the applicant is Mr. Robert Barnett.
Good afternoon. We're here on a continuance from the last meeting. Several things, Mr. Ballantyne. First, I raised my hand, but I was not called upon. How do you wish to handle, if it's even all possible, about corrections to the minutes that were approved that have some deficiencies? Is that just, it's done, the public doesn't get to comment?
The approval of the minutes is a board, and it's already been done.
Without the interaction of the public to say what may or may not be missing?
Is there a card, Helen? Did we have a card
For Mr. Barnett?
for anyone on the minutes?
No.
Oh, thank you. No, Emily, there was no card. The chairman said at the outset if there would be comments, he could fit people in. But I understand.
Would you like to address your case for today?
Yes, I would.
Please
But
proceed.
let the record reflect there are deficiencies in the minutes and that the public was not invited to participate after the second. There was no public comment period. Just to like to point out that deficiency. With respect to what brings us here today, this was a continuation last time we were here because of a complaint that was made that the record was not complete. Since that time, this all stems from a public records request that was made, as well as a complaint that was lodged that the parish administration had not conducted any type of investigation concerning issues with pile driving, fill. Public records request, the request was made and the complaint lodged. The parish sent out a memo that it was not going to be investigated because of the pending investigation that the parish had against the parish president. Or the parish, let me rephrase that, that's confusing. A complaint was lodged with code enforcement. And within that complaint, there were a number of things with photographs, with an original form that's filled out at code enforcement to investigate whether or not we had issues there on the property. Code enforcement responded to say that nothing would be done because there is a pending investigation of the parish president's office or the administration. Nevertheless, the parish did not make available until today at 1:30, when I had the opportunity to go over to the second floor here on Coop to look at the documents. I note that the public records that were supplied to me today do not reflect what was originally lodged with the parish. That is, the original complaint and all the photographs that went with it. That's of concern. So and there's nothing I can do about it because that's what was produced. Not that which was turned in originally, but what they decided to selectively produce. Now, procedurally where we are, Mr. Valentine, is a real quagmire, because the last time we were here, this board, based upon the opinion of the district attorney's office, said that you had no jurisdiction. Yet you then took up part of the issue and voted it down. But then you also, and I forget, I apologize, who made the original motion, decided that you didn't have jurisdiction. Well, all of this now is in litigation. And I'll refer this body to case number 2023-15888. And that is a lawsuit that was filed within the 30-day period against the parish as a result of what happened last time. Procedurally, we're back here again. So I guess I'll have the right to supplement and amend depending on what the board does. The complaint that was lodged, and there's nothing I can do about what was produced today. I'm just representing to you that it is incomplete. Perhaps the way to handle this is to have the matter continued so that code enforcement can get to you everything that was filed and produced. I am representing to you, as an officer of the court, that it was not all present. The photographs in the original complaint just seem to be missing. If this board decides not to do that and to proceed today to vote down, because I can't prove things, I can't prove a negative. All that was provided. The records reflect, and I'll refer you to the exhibits that were handed to you last time, exhibits 1 through 43, and I'll refer you now, and I incorporate all of those as that was done a month ago, incorporate the new ones that are also filed in the lawsuit in the 22nd Judicial District Court. That's now exhibits 1 through 44. In there are photographs, and this board is already in possession of those photographs, none of which appear in Ms. Lambert's staff report. My original complaint, nor the photographs of trucks delivering fill and land clearing. It's not there. But the pictures are. The aerial photographs and the photographs that I personally took of trucks delivering fill. Somehow, it just didn't make it into your record. So that's something that I ask that you consider, perhaps to get the record in the proper posture to contain everything that it should. And one thing about the pile driving that's of interest, even though Ms. Lambert says in her staff reports of 2 weeks ago that pile driving does not require permits, you do have a problem there by the developer that no one asked the essential questions of the developer, assuming they even talked to the developer. When were piles driven, and what are these trucks that we're doing out there in May bringing in presumably fill? I don't think people just bring in fill in trucks and just leave it parked overnight. It doesn't happen that way in the real world. So I think we've got a real procedural problem here, because this matter was dismissed before, but then you took it up, and then here we have, it doesn't seem like the investigation was complete. And what's of concern is if you have pile driving being put in before Louisiana One Call, 811, is contacted to put in pilings, to have it go out there, and as I think everybody knows, they go and spray the ground to show where all the improvements are. You have activity going on out there before 811 is called and brought in. seems to me an essential question would be, what were those trucks doing there in the pile driving? When was it put in? I think this is just a woefully inadequately before you today, Mr. Ballantyne, and I think the matter should be continued until such time as the staff over in the building next door gets the questions answered. Other than that, I can't prove a negative. I just offer, file, and introduce all these documents, specifically the photographs that show the trucks with fill and the pile driving.
Thank you, Mr. Barnett. If you could,
I'll
please-
reserve my 3 minutes.
Yeah, please step back. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak for this? Before we go to the opposition, I would like to hear I overlooked the staff comments, and I'd like to do that now.
The applicant filed a pending complaint lodged with the Department of Code Enforcement. Upon information and belief that the parish officials will not investigate any complaints concerning the Covington Trace Ridge Apartments because of a pending investigation of the Office of the Parish President. On July 5th of 2023, a formal complaint was filed with the Department of Code Enforcement regarding a suspicious area of fill and evidence of pile driving on the property without being issued a permit. On June 5th, a code enforcement officer visited the site and drafted a report of the findings, which read as follows. Officer Taro is dispatched to this property in response to work activity requiring permits. The site is the proposed area for the Covington Ridge Trace Apartments. Officer observes approximately 10 pilings that were driven along with some dirt work that has been performed. Officer speaks with the current property owner, who states that he has not yet sold the property to the developer. Property owner states that he did the dirt work, but did not bring any new fill into the location. He also states that the developer drove in pilings, but they are test pilings to determine if the area is worthy of holding them. The officer obtains photographs and shows them to the Assistant Director of Planning and Development, Helen Lambert, who states that no permit is required for the pile driving. The officer also gets with the Assistant Director, Ted Reynolds, who states that the Director, Daniel Hill, inspected the site and no permit was needed for the dirt work. The site does have a land clearing permit that can be found at 2023-1024. This case will be closed but may be reopened if any violations become known. On September 29th of 2023, the Planning Department's landscape architect, Ms. Regan Contois, inspected the subject property to determine the status of the land clearing permit, which was issued June 1, 2023, under case number 2023-1024 LC. Upon inspection, Ms. Contois observed that no clearing has begun. Ms. Contois also observed the status of the renovation permit for the bike shed remodel, which was issued on June 5th, 2023, and witnessed that no work had taken place. In regards to the demolition permit, which was issued on May 24, 2023, Ms. Contois observed no demolition has begun. As such, the property has been fully inspected over several months, and the status is current as of the date of this report, which was October 3rd, 2023.
Thank you. Now I have a speaker card from Mr. Shane. In opposition, please come forward, state your name and address and association.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm at P.O. Box 1810 in Covington. I am representing the current owner of this property, which is VCP North Shore Properties, LLC. I also represent the prospective purchaser and developer of the property, which is Military Road Revitalization Company, LLC. Contrary to Mr. Barnett's views, I find the staff report to be incredibly comprehensive in terms of investigating the complaints that were made. It's interesting to me that there seems to be a chronology of immediate action as it relates to looking into the specific complaints that were made, and that the complaints were if you will, delineated with specificity in terms of, yes, there was a land clearing permit, but no, there's no evidence of any land clearing. Yes, there was a building permit issued for the remodel of a building, but there was no evidence of any remodel of the building. And if there was some dirt moved on the site, the owner acknowledged that he did the dirt moving and that none of the dirt came from off-site. It's also interesting to me that we had an assistant director of planning and development, an assistant director of the engineering department, the director of the engineering department get involved in this investigation because this is a hot button case. There's no secret there. But I think the parish went out of their way to do a good job to respond to Mr. Barnett's complaints. Mr. Barnett might find it interesting, but I don't have a problem with the complaints in the sense that anyone has the right to look into whether or not code is being followed. And it's his belief that code was not followed. I'm here today to tell you that I've talked to my clients, that's both the current owner, the prospective purchaser, and that the only things that they have done were move some dirt on site. That was done by the owner, and the developer drove some test pilings. And before doing so, it was determined and confirmed that no permits were needed to drive the test piling. To me, it's not only no harm, but there's no foul in this particular instance. Again, I would stress that because there was a complete and full investigation, which is documented in the staff report, there's no need for a continuance today. Mr. Barnett and I and our clients may disagree as to what's happened, but Mr. Barnett's already initiated litigation against the parish, and if he wishes to continue these issues, the discussion of these issues in that litigation, he has every right to do so, and I respect that. I might disagree with his view on the issues, but I certainly respect the process. But I don't believe that this is a matter that needs to be postponed or continued. Quite frankly, what else could we ask staff to do? And quite frankly, what else do you need in order to make a determination? And I would respectfully request that based on the record presented to you by staff, that you should dismiss the appeals filed by Mr. Barnett because there is in fact no showing of code violation by owner or prospective purchaser as it relates to land clearing, as it relates to movement of dirt, or as it relates to the driving of test piles. With those things having been said, if any of you have questions at the appropriate time, I'll be glad to respond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just briefly, Mr. Chairman, for the 3 minutes that are allotted, won't need that much time. I think the matter is ripe for continuing because the record is woefully incomplete. It doesn't contain the original complaint nor the attachments thereto. So I'm not quite sure how or why this board should decide with only the unilateral production from staff, but not what came from the complainant. That's really problematic. Two, as to the land clearing, the records reflect, well, let's go back. The permit was issued on June 1st. The aerials that were provided in the exhibits that I've attached reflect the land clearing before June 1. It's clear to the naked, you can just see it. And the naked eye, if you go out there and walk it, it's there. I've done it. And you got the aerials. You've got the photographic proof. Land clearing was done before the permit. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone else that would like to comment?
Mr. Chairman, James Bolner for the
Wait,
District
hold on,
Attorney's.
James.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
May I?
Sir.
Yes, thank you. With regard to Mr. Barnett's last comments, if he's walked the site, he's done so without authority, and I respectfully request that he not enter the site again without...
It was done, I'll represent it was done by aerial.
I'm sorry, I thought I heard him say...
He did.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to speak over Mr. Barnett. Last time I checked, I have the podium. I thought I heard Mr. Barnett to say that he had done it or had walked the site. I may have misunderstood, but I also want to make sure Mr. Barnett understands me, and that is he's not to physically enter the site without asking permission. But this isn't a catfight between two lawyers. I come back to the podium to you to tell you, let's think about it for a minute. The people that went out to investigate the site, why did they do so? It was because a complaint was filed. Don't we have confidence that the staff or the people in parish government that went out had copies of the complaint, the photographs, anything else that had been lodged? That's the very reason they went out there. This is poppycock to suggest that they didn't have the data they needed to go look at the site, and I have no doubt, as parish government should, they were very vigilant, and if they had seen any evidence of impropriety, somebody not doing what they were supposed to do, my guess is the landowner and or the prospective purchaser, we would have been advised accordingly. I think there's a reason we weren't advised accordingly, and that is the heat of the battle has apparently given everyone some view that we're doing something terrible at that site. The battle over whether or not there should be an apartment project there is not the battle before this board today. The question posed to you today is, should Mr. Barnett's appeal of decisions made by parish officials as it relates to potential code enforcements be overridden or reversed? Again, I ask you to look at the record. Assume that a valid complaint was filed with proper documentation, and look at the clear and convincing findings that have been reported to you in the staff report, and dismiss these appeals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make the
No,
record
your-
perfectly clear.
your time
that
has
I did
expired,
not
Mr.
trespass. Did not, no, there was time.
Your time
left.
has expired.
I did not trespass. It was done by Ariel.
Okay. Any questions? Any questions or comments? Mr. Daly?
So we had a three-parter last time, and actions were taken on the first two. This third one is specific to the code enforcement question. And I just want to make that clear today, right? It's number 3 of the previous meeting.
Yes. I'm sorry. Would you start again?
I'm sorry, yeah, you were good.
Yeah, James Bolner from the District Attorney's Office. I think that last time the problem was that there was no complaint given to staff before.
Right.
All we had was just a statement that there was a complaint by Mr. Barnett. And I think that's been rectified, but I think that the ultimate issue is whether or not this is something that falls underneath your jurisdiction. And I think we're in the same place that we were last time with regards to jurisdiction. Additionally, given the fact that Mr. Barnett has filed litigation and has indicated he intends to include this issue in his litigation, I believe that it would be appropriate to defer on the issue. I certainly do not have any issue with Mr. Barnett's request for a continuance to verify the fact that staff has reviewed all of the photographs, including the photographs that he referenced that were taken by some kind of a drone or aerially. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Blanche?
One question of staff, and I'd like to ask the staff to address the idea that they didn't see the packet or haven't seen any photographs or, I guess, evidence or whatever has been submitted by the appellant. So can you address that for us, Ms. Lambert, or do you have any information that you can share with us to help us make a decision?
I am aware of the complaint that was filed.
And I guess my question is more direct in what Mr. Shane had spoken of, in that obviously our inspectors or investigators should have had information to go out to look at whatever the complaint was.
All the information that was submitted is available.
And it has been, in other words, they had this information to go out into the field with to investigate. That's my question.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Daly, did you have another question?
Maybe a procedural one. So the question that's being asked is to review the code enforcement report. on this one? Or is it that it was actually conducted? Because we do have evidence that it was conducted. I don't, at this point, that wasn't available last meeting, but now we have the code enforcement report.
The staff has completed land clearing and pile driving and maybe even so the demolition at the site versus the permits that have been issued.
Right.
And there's nothing in violation of those
Right.
permits.
Right,
And
that was
so-
the finding that was submitted to us, yes. Yep. So I'm not sure what the question is that we will be taking up as a motion if we do. I guess first jurisdictionally, and then second if we do decide that there's jurisdiction. We're quite limited in what we can decide in this body, so it would have to be framed very specifically. And I believe the only thing we can decide is whether that code enforcement action was taken or not, or make a determination. But it was, so I mean,
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please, Mr. Swindell.
In reviewing the minutes from last month's meeting, Mr. Boldner advised us that there are two types of issues that we can make decisions on: floodplain issues and Unified Development Code issues. I think we're at the point again where this is not something that belongs in front of this board. Am I misinterpreting this somehow?
No.
All right, so I mean, I'll just I don't really appreciate the fact that all of this is bringing. I mean, I'm gonna be honest here. I think, Mr. Barnett, that you're smart enough to know that these issues don't belong in front of this board. And here we are again with the same drama that we had last month for an issue that this board is not charged with. So I'm just gonna make a motion that we don't take any ruling on this, similar to what we did last month.
Mr. Blash.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Swindell and a second by Mr. Blash. Let's have some discussion first. To essentially that we would take no action today. That it's not something for this board to act on. So before we vote, any other discussion? I guess my only feeling is the permits were appropriately issued. And the question is the question before us was whether we were to overturn the decision of the council or the staff in issuing those permits. And I think in that way, we could vote on that. Otherwise, you know, it may come before us again, I guess is what I'm saying. So.
Well, and even if it does come before us again, it'll be more refined to what, within the purview of what we can decide upon. This is pretty open-ended for our body.
Well, I think, if I can jump in for just a second and ask a question.
Mr. Black.
And I'm just going to ask council for just to verify this. In our roles as Board of Adjustments Commissioners, we are to determine whether or not inappropriate activity has occurred in terms of a decision made by staff. Is that correct? In other words, if a staff member has made a decision that is not in accordance with what the land use ordinances or rules say, then it can be appealed, and we at that point can make that determination.
I think to the extent that it pertains to the UDC or floodplain issues, yes, but I don't think this board is charged with the oversight of code enforcement.
Right. Okay, and that's what I'm getting to the point of this. So it is your opinion that we are not, as Mr. Swindell has said, at this point in time in authority to make that decision.
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I needed to know.
Yeah, much like we can't change zoning, we deal with
That's-
variances to zoning.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. Very good.
Any other discussion? Any other comments?
Public comment?
That's right. Thank you.
You're not going to allow me
No.
public comment after a second?
No, that was
A motion and a second
There-
allows for comment.
by the
Under
board.
Robert's Rules of Order.
No.
The discussion was, Mr. Barnett, for the board. We're at the point of voting. Thank you, sir. Please be seated.
Well, note my objection for the record, please. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion from the board? Then we have a motion and a
Can we please restate the motion? I'm sorry.
Mr. Swindell, would you like to?
I just want to restate it. I'm sorry.
That we take no action.
Is to take no action.
Yes. Yeah. So the motion is to remove this item from the agenda due to lack of jurisdiction, and take no action.
Okay. And Mr. Blige seconded the second time. Okay. All right. Please vote with your. Okay. Motion passed. Okay. Moving along, the second case for this afternoon is BOA case number 3503. Request by an applicant and an I-2 industrial district to reduce the required rear yard buffer from 25 feet to 10 feet to allow for the construction of a fire station. The property is located at 425 Leeward Loop in Covington, Louisiana, Ward 1, District 3. Applicant is St. Tammany Fire Protection District number 13, Lonnie Johnson, the fire chief, and his representative is Joseph F. Schneider. Staff comments, please.
The objective of the request is to allow for the construction of a fire station and to allow sufficient space in the rear of the property to provide adequate turning radius for the tanker and the pumper trucks. There is no objection to the request considering that a 10-foot green space is proposed to be provided in the rear. The existing 29-foot drainage servitude will remain as required, and the site is abutting a property zone HC2 Highway Commercial District in the rear.
Who is here to represent this case?
Good evening.
You're not Mr. Lonnie Johnson, is that right?
Lonnie Johnson, yes.
What's that?
Lonnie Johnson,
You are.
yes, sir.
We've met sometime before, and I would like to thank you for your many, many years of service and what you've done for the people and the fire department and all that. We recognize that, and we certainly like to say that we appreciate you.
You're most welcome.
Please, who's ever going to speak for this, please state your name and address and affiliation.
Yeah, good evening. Joseph Schneider, 105 Evangeline Drive, Slidell, Louisiana, architect for the project. And pretty much what we're asking is a reduction in the rear landscape buffer to 10 feet. There's a 29-foot drainage servitude already on the site. I like to keep 10 feet. We have 10 on the sides. And the building is another 54 feet beyond into that property. And it does make the turning radius and access to the firehouse from the rear much more easier going with the 10-foot buffer. And your consideration, we deeply appreciate it. That's it.
Mr. Johnson, would you like to add anything to that?
Yes, we were requesting this variance for the engine to make the turning radius. We'll make a one-way in drive, and come out back to the front there.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone here this afternoon that is in opposition to this request? Seeing none, I'd like to open it. Who we got? Anybody have any questions or comments? Me either. Would any, Mr. Daly?
To approve the variance as requested.
We have a motion by Mr. Daly to approve the request approve the variance as requested. Can I have a second? Mr. Saunders has made that second. Any other discussion by the board? Seeing none, vote with your screen.
All in favor?
Unanimous approval. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
The next case for this afternoon is a BOA case number 3524. Request by applicant in an A4 single-family residential district to reduce the required front yard setback from 30 feet to 25 feet, reduce the required rear yard setback from 25 to 15 feet, and reduce the required southern side setback from 10 feet to 5 feet to allow for the construction of a single-family residence. The property is located on the west side of Savoy Drive, north of Piper Lane, being Lot 49, Park de Lac subdivision, Mandeville, Louisiana, Ward 4, District 10. The applicant representative, Tony and Selena Cartaginese. Staff comments, please.
The applicant is requesting several setback variances to construct a new single-family residence on the .32 acre site, which is triangular in shape and has an average depth of 158 feet. The variances requested include the following: a reduction of the required 30-foot front yard setback to 25 feet for the construction of a front porch, a reduction of the required 25-foot rear yard setback to 15 feet for the construction of a two-car garage, and a reduction of the required 10-foot southern side yard setback to 5 feet for the construction of the main residence. While the applicant could potentially reduce the size of the proposed residence to meet the minimum required setbacks and avoid the need for the requested variances, the triangular shape of the lot could constitute a hardship since the depth is not consistent and tapers down to 0 foot on the northern side. Additionally, the subject property is one of the last remaining undeveloped lots in the subdivision, and granting the requested variance should not establish a precedent for future development of the neighborhood.
Thank you. The applicant here? Please step forward, state your name, address, and your affiliation.
Selena Cartaginese, Lot 49, Park de Lac, Savoy Street.
Tony Cartaginese at Lot 49, Savoy Street as well.
You have anything to add to this case?
Not really. It's just
It's
pretty much what you pointed out. It's in a triangle, just trying to fit the required building requirements, and, with our plans, just, need a little bit of variance on it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You would just step aside. Let me see if is there anyone here that is an objection to this request? Is there is there anybody named Adair here? We have a letter of objection from some of your neighbors. What do you want me to do?
If you want to read it, if not, everyone has a copy.
Yeah.
That's for you to decide.
I'll choose not to read the letter of objection. We have, let me ask a question, excuse me. I recognize myself. Is there a HOA in Park du Lac?
Yes.
Yes, there is.
Yes.
And has this been approved or reviewed by the?
Yes.
Yes, it has, and it has been 100% approved by the HOA.
But we don't have that in writing.
I have it here. It was by an email. I sent it to someone, Erin. Her name's Erin.
Oop, wait a minute.
Erin and Mitchell. I
If
have
you've
it
got a
right
copy
here.
of it, would you give it to
I
Erin?
have highlighted because I printed it. But she's on the printer. I'm sorry. Kind of.
I can't read it.
The one that came out not good. It's the highlighted.
It says the Park du Lac HOA board has officially approved the variance for rear setbacks to be 15 feet as shown on the attached site plan.
I'll give that to staff.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, Mr. Daly.
Received in opposition was not from someone in the HOA or the neighborhood, it's the abutting property because this is on the edge. And it was specific to the rear yard setback, which the HOA had approved. And I believe, so the 25 feet to 15 feet rear yard setback request is pertaining to the garage specifically?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's most of the main structure wouldn't be.
Is not within that,
Right,
yeah.
because of the triangle, depth of the triangle.
Okay. Yeah, because it is, yeah, this one wasn't too hard because usually the triangle and irregular shaped lots, we usually give a little more discretion, but since we have a neighbor that's immediately abutting it, that presents challenges. Is there an issue if that part of it wouldn't be approved, that the garage could be moved or otherwise reconfigured?
The way everything had to be shifted to the left to fit that garage.
Yeah, it is a pretty triangled.
We have three, we don't have really a rear backyard.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have four corners. It's a three
Right.
sided.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Swinell.
How long have you guys owned the property?
3 months ago? About 3 months.
All right, I'm just looking to establish the fact that all these clearances existed before you bought. This is tough. Normally, when we have an HOA that's in agreement, just as was stated, that, we usually side with the property owners, but in this case, there's an objection from the neighbor behind you. And I don't know if you guys have seen that email, but they put a pretty good argument in place, that they buy property, that they purchase property with the assumption that we would protect the property variances that are in effect, and I struggle to approve this knowing that there's an objection to it by an adjacent property owner. With taking that into regard, I think, this is tough, and I understand this lot is irregular, but the reason why I asked the ownership question is because I feel like you went into it knowing that it was irregular, and hoping that you would be able to build into these setbacks. But at the end of the day, if it's not approved, I realize it's going to be a challenge, but I think that's kind of what you accepted when you bought the property, is that you knew there was going to be a challenge to get something approved to build into those setbacks. So just I'm still undecided at this moment, and I'll be absolutely clear when I do decide. But just keep that in mind when we do make a decision.
Because we have to have a 2,800 square foot house on that particular lot. That's with the HOA.
We bought a lot that was there for like 30 years. Nobody's done anything. People that are complaining about it dumps all their stuff over the other side of the gate all the time. They've been upset ever since we bought it.
Knowing that, and I don't know what the right path forward is, but at the end of the day, if we don't approve this request, I think the challenge is going to be to go back to the HOA and ask them for something different, relative to that, to then put a request forward that doesn't go into these setbacks. So.
I was going to recognize Mr. Blige, but you.
Well, I guess I'll chime in a little bit. And this is a tough one because it is a very, very irregular lot. But looking at, and just kind of echoing what Mr. Swindell says, there are options, as I can tell, from, and maybe There was no objection, I think, to the, was it the south side? Side yard setback, I can't. I think they had no objection to the south, to the side yard setback. But to echo what he was saying, I think that there are options that can be looked at in terms of the actual construction and layout of the building that would satisfy, you're still getting to 2,800 square feet. I think Mr. Swindell is absolutely right. I think he did go into it knowing this is kind of a weird shaped lot, obviously, and that maybe your architect needed to use a little bit more imagination on how to make that work. So.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. And I recognize myself, and I just wanted to second Mr. Swindell's comments. I too am uncomfortable with this and can't support it. And now I support Mr. Blosch's comments as well. Anyone else have anything? Can I have a motion?
I just have one more thing to add. Just
Mr. Daly.
we can postpone because I have a feeling that it will be in the negative, and I, that's a large appeal process, but we can postpone if, like, especially I think the issue is the rear setback with the garage issue. So if, that can be rectified, we could postpone and pick that up the next meeting. I'm just making a recommendation to the applicant as far as, like, if a decision's made, then it's, then it's a little tougher to then resolve that later on. Whereas if we postpone, it gives you the opportunity to do a little redesign and change the variance request.
Would, yes, ma'am.
Sorry, these microphones are going to be trouble today. Yes, I mean, you all can postpone the case. If you all voted on the case and the variance were to be denied, they could not come back with the same variance for 1 year. If they were to modify that variance, they could come back to you all with a modified variance, but they could not come back with the same variance request for a year.
And as I understand it, the request for postponement has to come from the applicant. But anyway, I'd like to recognize Mr. Swindell.
So, I have a couple of questions. Do we need to take these up individually? If we don't postpone, do we take these issues individually, or do we just take one with stipulations? How does that work? I mean, because there's 3 things listed here.
You all can do it however, which way
All right, so
you see fit.
yeah, let me just make a comment relative to postponement. I think that would be smart because the HOA approval that you read only dealt with a rear yard setback, which I find interesting because the rear yard setback abuts what I think is a different neighborhood. I would encourage you to go back to the HOA and get some agreement to the other 2, which are relative to the neighborhood itself, the front yard setback and the south side yard setback. The HOA should bless those, likewise the neighbors on each of those sides. Those are the questions that we typically are asking and the information that we're looking for when people come here with those requests. I think you're likely to get us in a positive note on those things if you were to return after postponement. So that would be my suggestion, would be for you guys to request a postpone.
Okay, I'm showing a request by Mr. Daly again and Mr. Bloch.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I'd just like to say that we want to try and find ways to say yes, but it has to make sense too. So if you want to work with us, we will. We're very agreeable to work with,
I just don't understand, if she's in a different neighborhood, she's in, Adair's in Westeria.
But she's a neighbor that lives in St. Tammany Parish.
She's an adjacent
Right.
neighbor, just happens to be in the back in a different subdivision.
Been threatened already.
Yeah, she's gave us problems since we moved in. I mean, since we bought the lot.
Right.
She's,
May I make a comment, Mr. Valentine?
Yes, certainly. I recognize Ms. Lambert.
And while your abutting neighbor may not, make any changes in the opinion here, what the board is offering you is maybe to postpone your case and get a chance to talk to the HOA and see if they would be in favor of the other variances that you're requesting. And also if there's might be a way to reconfigure or the garage and see if there's a way that you can make some smaller changes that would allow you to move it or maybe reconfigure a little bit and then, come back at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Well, you have to, so you're going to request a postponement.
The postponement has to come from you.
It's fine. Okay.
Or,
I mean, if if the Adair is gonna constantly kick us back, I just don't see, we went by the HOA. The HOA approved us. That's who we thought we had to speak to. That is the number one source to go to. Had our plans drawn.
Obviously, when we always knew what we would get into, like you suggested, we knew what we bought and we should have known better. But at the same time, you can't really tell what you're buying into. It was so much dense, trees and so forth. You couldn't get a good idea until you started to clear it. And then you started clearing, you realized that, we just need a small little setback on the garage. We're not asking, it's not like our house is butting up to them. We've already been threatened, they come out there and they put out.
They already, they
all
drawn
kinds of strings.
lines
on our
and
property.
strings
Yeah, I hate
everywhere, and it's,
It's no big deal. It is what it is. We should have known better. You pointed it out
I hate when there's
perfectly.
dead trees,
Did-
get on a drawing.
I guess the question is, would you like to formally postpone this and come back?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
take another
That's
bite at the
fine.
apple?
that's fine.
Okay.
Look, just one more comment. I think it's critical that you guys understand, like, we like to work with people in these scenarios. It's just, when you've got a neighbor that wants us to do what we're tasked to do, it's very difficult for us to decide the other way. And I think, I would right now vote no to this. So I can tell you, if it came to a vote, I would vote to not approve it as requested. And I think you have a chance now to go back at this, reduce the size of your garage, get out of the setback where that neighbor is adjacent to your property, and then come ask us again. But I would also advise you to go address those other two with your HOA and come back with a letter blessing those other two setbacks also. And I think probably you'd get us in a much more positive light.
Very good.
Okay, so I'm gonna need a motion to postpone.
I'll so move, Mr. Chairman.
I got a motion from Mr. Blige to postpone this case,
Second that.
and I got a second from Mr. Swindell. And everybody vote with your screen.
Motion carries.
Motion passed. The next case for this afternoon is BOA case 3530, request by an applicant in an I-2 industrial district for a reduction of the required number of Class A and Class B trees, within the eastern and western side yard buffers, and for a waiver of the required number of Class A and Class B trees within the northern rear yard buffer. The property is located at 1303 Pool Drive, Covington, Louisiana, Ward 3, District 3, and the applicant and representative is Solid Tops, Inc., Mr. Nick Del Bianco. Staff comments, please.
According to the aerial photograph, it appears that the canopy of an existing live oak tree located on the adjacent property to the west extends over the property line of the parcel in question. Due to the large canopy of the abutting live oak tree, a reduction of the required number of Class A and Class B trees should be considered where the canopy of the tree encroaches over the western property line. The plan also shows the location of the proposed power pole line within a western side buffer, which could justify the reduction of the required number of Class A and Class B trees and/or the replacement with shrubs in the event that a proposed power line could not be relocated. While staff is not completely opposed to the request, no hardship has been demonstrated to support the elimination of all the required plantings within the rear buffer or the east and west buffer areas as shown on the attached plan. Staff suggests that the request be postponed and a revised plan be submitted showing the size of the canopy of the existing live oak tree. If the power line, which is proposed to be located within a portion of the western buffer, cannot be relocated, provide the required number of shrub within the area encumbered by the power line, and provide the servitude agreement. Provide the servitude agreement and show the size of the servitude where the existing power line is identified on the plan along the rear of the property, and provide the required 10-foot green space and required number of Class A and Class B trees outside the servitude and provide the required number of Class A and Class B trees in the eastern buffer.
Thank you. Is Mr. Bianco here? Please step forward and state your name and address and your affiliation.
Good afternoon. I'm Kendall Del Bianco, Nick's wife. Our commercial lot is located at 1303 Pool Drive in Covington. And this is my engineer, Joe Reed. He's helping. I figured he could better explain it than I can. So I'm going to give him the podium.
And Mr. Reed, tell us who you're affiliated with. Or
I'm affiliated with, that's my daughter. I'm a father. I'm the engineer, but I'm the father.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
On the project, okay. 1303 Pool Drive. That's Solid Top. That's where the address is. Basically, what the lady stated is what we're trying to do. On the sides of the property, we have to design 2 large drainage ditches per the code requirement for the parish. And as of right now, we're in the permitting phase for this project. We're trying to finish up so we can get started with the construction. And the size of these ditches are going to be quite large to meet the containment requirements from the parish for drainage for a 10% retention. And then in the rear of the property, we have a power line, a CLECO power line on the rear of the property where there's an existing drainage ditch. And they're telling us that we need to have a 30-foot clear right-of-way on our side of the property because they can't get into the ditch, and on the other side, it's all full of trees. That's the Winn-Dixie side on the back, that shopping center. So basically, they want to run that power line down, I guess it would be the east side of the property, all the way to the front, a future power line to provide power to our building and to provide power to the new property next door. We don't know those people. They haven't built yet, but they're in the process of designing it. And they know they have to get power to them too, because if they do build, they're gonna need power. And that's gonna be a 30-foot right-of-way as well, 15 feet on each side. And they've instructed us that we can't have anything in that area at all, because if it's there, they'll destroy it. If they have to get in there and work on the power lines, it's gonna get cut down. The 15 feet on each side and 30 feet in the back. So what we're trying to do is, we haven't done this yet, but we're trying to plan ahead and not put trees or vegetation where we know they're gonna have to come out, because it's costly, and it's gonna cost us a lot of money. So if we can know ahead of time that we can't do that there, we'd like to, get a variance on it and save us some cost and some work. So basically, that's what we're here for. That's it, that's about it.
You also have the ditch, though.
Yeah, in the back too, over here.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. Please step aside. Is there anyone here that's in objection to this request for variance? Seeing none? Any comments or questions from the board? Mr. Blosh.
Okay, from the applicant, what sort of building or what type of business are you putting in, as planned for the property?
My husband does commercial countertops. Well, I guess residential too. So all he does is fabricate. So it's just going to be a 4,800 warehouse, and then there's going to be a small office in the front.
Okay, and I think one of the, I'm totally in agreement with this as far as trying to plant under the canopy of the oak tree. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So also we've had this before, or at least I've seen this before, where the CLECO right-of-way prohibited any kind of Class A or B tree, but we did require, I think, some Class C shrubs and such.
I asked my engineer at CLECO about that, and he said they would still run them over, and his vegetation manager does not want anything under the line. So I've also recommended that to them, but they're not in agreement with my suggestion, so.
Okay. So I'm sympathetic to that, those two issues. Beyond that, I think that the planning still need to exist on the, I don't have the coordinates right or left, north or south, but.
We have issues with the ditch as well. Engineering came back last week and said our slope was too steep, so we had to widen the ditch. Is it 12 feet?
Okay.
So that's like right where the trees on the left side would be. That's
Okay.
another.
How would that affect your building in terms of the footprint for the building?
turning it back over.
Okay.
You don't have a drawing, you don't have a drawing, huh?
Nothing at this
Get
point.
closer to the mic, sir.
Do you have a drawing of the property?
I'm trying to,
I have one.
yeah, okay, I see it. Okay.
Yeah. I have a new one that we revised. Like I said, we're still permitting this right now. I wanted to show it to him. That's the new ditches. They're
Okay,
really
this-
wide. They take up pretty much the whole property.
Yeah.
As you can see, they're fairly large. They're from the property line to the fence on the left side, and then we have our driveway. And you can't plant anything in the ditch, because if you do, you can affect the drainage, and it's not gonna drain properly, so. And
Understand.
that has to go from the front to the back of the property, because the ditch is in the rear of the property. There's no drainage in the front. This is a private street next to Pool Lumber. There's a little swale up there, and we can't dig a ditch where we need to go to the highway, because the property next door is private, and they have to give us permission, and
Yeah.
they're not gonna do that. I mean, they're gonna have to drain to the back too, probably. In fact, we had to get permission from the people in the back of us that own the drainage ditch. We had to get permission to drain into that ditch, and they gave us written permission to do that, because that's a private ditch as well. So that's what we're having to deal with, so.
Can I ask him a question of staff?
I recognize Mr. Blash.
Okay, a question for staff. Has there been discussion with regards to tree mitigation or the mitigation fund for trees? Have we had that talk?
No, there was no,
Okay.
I'm not aware of any requests to mitigate the trees. However, while they're required to provide or to meet the drainage requirements, the ordinance clearly states that the required number of trees is supposed to be provided, either by providing an additional 10-foot green space. It looks like they're providing a 20-foot, a 28-foot side yard setback between the building on the east side of the property. So I don't know how wide the ditch has to be, but there should be sufficient room to at least provide some trees as well as towards the rear. In regards to the rear planting area, that some trees could be planted outside of the required, I think it was stated a 30-foot clear right-of-way. Is it from the rear property line that they're asking a 30-foot clear right-of-way?
Calico's is telling us 30 foot in the rear, they want to keep clear from the property line in the back forward, 30 feet.
Okay.
To that property line. I mean, there's a power line there too. That's the main power line that we're getting the electricity from off the back.
And this is one of the reasons why staff suggested to postpone the case, because it appears that there might be some information that we didn't have in regards to the 30-foot, or, basically the request is just to not plant any trees. There might be a way to amend the request to plant some trees.
Yeah, we're not in, it's not that we don't want it landscape. That's not what but we're just trying to not have to do it and then tear it all out, because it's expensive. And if we can know up front that we can avoid some of these things and not incur the cost, we'd like to try and do that. That's all we're trying to do, because it's costly.
Okay. Mr. Daly.
Staff requested, or is recommending postponement, and then the provision of a planting plan, which it seems like that might be a good idea, because then if there are any tweaks based on the planting plan, it's much easier for us to make that decision, because we'll say, oh, okay, that makes sense, so, but it's up to you if you want to postpone and accept that.
Still in the permitting phase.
Well,
Can we just, so basically, just go ahead with our planning design, because we're still in the permitting phase. And then, the parish has our drawings right now, just what we do, we
It'd be
submit
the
that.
planting, yeah.
Submit that back to the permitting people that were.
You submit it back to us.
Yeah, and they'll let us know or let you know if there are any variances that are needed based on that.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just base on what we
Seems
think, and
reasonable
then
to
we'll let y'all look at it again and see if it's acceptable or.
So let me state that you're then the postponement has to come from you.
Okay.
So this would be postponed, and then you would resubmit or get with the staff and have an approved landscaping plan for the entire property.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And from there, it may determine if there are any variances needed.
Right.
To return to us, if, or not, yeah.
I think I'll just turn that into a motion.
I'm good.
So, and I have a second.
Well, I think we can just make a motion to postpone to the next meeting.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Any second. Any other discussion? Please vote with your screen. Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
The next case for today is our case number 5. BOA case number 3531, request by an applicant in an HC3 Highway Commercial District to remove an 18-inch protected live oak tree. The property is located on the north side of Louisiana Highway 22 on the east side of Bell Point Drive and on the west side of Pearlou Road, Madisonville, Louisiana, Ward 1, District 1. Applicant is Highway 22 Pearlou LLC, Mr. Bo Bryant, and a representative by Dago Fiss and Kucinich, Brittany Walker. Staff comments, please.
As shown on the attached site plan labeled A2, the owner is requesting a variance to remove the single 18-inch live oak tree located on Lot B to allow for a secondary access drive to Lot A. As indicated in the attached narrative, the applicant claims that the placement of a second cross-access drive is necessary to connect Lot B from the entrance or driveway on Pearlou Road to Lot A. Staff has considered other possible options to save the 18-inch live oak on Lot B, such as jogging the location of the proposed driveway to the south by 7 feet to allow for the 25-foot buffer to be maintained as required by the restrictive covenant, allowing the existing cross-access agreement between lots A and B to include a shared parking agreement for both buildings. The CLECO transformer indicated by a red X and shown on the plan labeled A1 was approved in a different location on the original approved plans for Lot A. And the extension of the entrance from Pearlou Road to Lot A is not needed, and site circulation is possible with the elimination of this portion of the internal drive. Should the board be in favor of the request to remove the 18-inch live oak on Lot B, it should be subject to the attached live oak mitigation plan, which meets the mitigation requirements for a Class B live oak as defined by the UDC. Should the board not be in favor of the variance request, it should be subject to the removal of the second cross-access between lots A and B, which is proposed, the relocation of the CLECO transformer, and the relocation of the number of parking spaces on Lot A.
Thank you. Is someone here to present this case? Please come forward, state your name and address.
Brittany Walker, 227 Highway 21, and I'm the attorney. We represent Highway 22 Pearlou LLC, which is represented today by manager Bo Bryant, who is also with us today. In addition, we have James Altman, who is the architect for the development here as well, to answer any questions you may have. Mr. Bryant is currently developing a piece of property, like Aaron stated, on the corner of Highway 22 and Pearlou, which comprises of 2 parcels, as you'll see in the site plans we submitted, Lot A and Lot B. He's requesting a variance to have one live oak tree on Lot B removed because, if you can see, the drip line covers a large portion of the center of the property, therefore which precludes reasonable use and development of the property. We submitted a photo of the live oak just so we could all kind of be on the same page about what we were looking at today. Mr. Bryant also submitted a mitigation plan to provide for the replanting of 6 live oak trees, 5 of which would be in the back of Lot B in the buffer zone, so that it could thrive in an area that's outside the development and also would provide a natural barrier between the development and the residents located behind the development. The BOA staff report notes that the mitigation plan submitted meets the requirements of the Unified Development Code. Pertinent to the variance request, it's important to note that the code provides that a live oak tree shall be permitted to be removed if the live oak denies or precludes reasonable use of the property. One of the factors stated is if the live oak impacts the buildable area. Secondly, it goes on to state that an application for tree removal and replacement shall be granted if the live oak is located in an area where a structure is to be placed, and if not removed, will deny reasonable use of the property and reasonable reconfiguration is not possible. Mr. Bryant asserts that if he's unable to remove the live oak at issue, he will be unable to reasonably develop this property. It will have a massive impact on the buildable area, and as we'd like to discuss today, reasonable reconfiguration is not possible. We've submitted several site plans we'd like to look at to demonstrate what the development looks like on Lot 2. First, we'd like to look at the site plan that's labeled A2. Mr. Bryant and Mr. Altman assert that this is the safest layout, configuration, and traffic flow for the development. In developing the site plan, two important issues were considered and are important to note. First, the potential widening of Pearlou Road. And second, the roundabout at the corner of Highway 22 and Pearlou. DOTD has had extensive conversations with Mr. Bryant about the portion of the property they're going to need to take from Lot B in order to make the roundabout happen. That being said, although engineering is still undergoing, they've estimated it'll be approximately 5,000 square feet, which will then make Lot B under an acre. The several beneficial points of Lot A2 that we'd like to point out are the fact that not one, you can see it has the 4,500 square foot development. You can see how large the drip line of the live oak at issue falls into that 4,500 square feet. By placing it here, however, it makes it the least impact of the potential widening of Pearlou or the roundabout. Second, it provides for several ways for patrons to enter, exit, and maneuver in the development. You can see if you have a patron coming in on Pearlou and they're driving down on what we are asserting is the best two-way paved location on the side of Lot B, they can go and see a tenant in Lot B and then exit on the circulation lane on the right-hand side on Pearlou Road and come out. Or they can take a right, park in front of Lot A to see a tenant on Lot A, or if they want to go through the drive-through that's going to be on the west side of Lot A, they can circulate around the building. You can see there's a lot of different ways for the patrons to maneuver in a safe way in this development as set forth in the site plan A2. However, when working with planning and development, they suggested two possible options which we'd like to walk through today. The first is possibly making the development on Lot B smaller. The problem is that's not financially feasible or cost effective. Mr. Bryant utilized the exact same numbers on Lot A. So the amount per square foot he's going to be receiving in rent, plus the amount of what it costs to build the property and all the numbers. When it came down to it, the revenue was not going to be sufficient to cover the cost of the construction loan and the development. So anything under 4,500 square feet is not financially feasible or cost effective. Second, planning and development suggested reconfiguring the 4,500 square feet to try to be completely outside the drip line so they could coexist. So we had Mr. Altman prepare what that scenario would look like. If you can look at site plan A3, you'll see on the right-hand side, it says A3 at the bottom. This shows what that suggested reconfiguration would look like. It also provides for the two-way paved road to be on the back portion of Lot A and B, as also suggested as a possible reconfiguration by planning and zoning.
Are you?
It was, A3 was submitted, Aaron?
Yeah, A3 was submitted yesterday, I believe.
Yes.
We forwarded it to everyone, so you should have it in your inbox.
You should have it here. I made a copy for you.
We just thought this was the best way to illustrate what the scenario would actually look like. Do you all have a copy of A3 now?
I distributed a copy of A3 just before the meeting, so if you look through the paperwork that I distributed, you should have a copy.
I got it.
It's the letter, it starts with the letter on top. Mr. Sander, you have it in your hand.
Mr. Bryant and Mr. Altman assert that this is a dangerous and will likely lead to more accidents, create poor circulation and traffic flow, and make this development less desirable for patrons because of these difficulties. Do we all have A3? Just want to make sure. It looks like we're still flipping. Okay. Okay. So you can see in this configuration, in order to be completely outside the drip line, of the live oak that's on Lot B, the development of 4,500 square feet would have to be right alongside the street planting buffer adjacent to Parallel Road. You can also see that it creates a dead end, which would make it almost impossible for the patrons to safely exit Lot B. Because if all of these parking spaces are full, arguably they're going to have to, reverse out? I mean, it's essentially a dead end. It's not a way for people to leave the property. Because now you have no circulation lane like you did in A2 on the side adjacent to Parallel Road. Also, one of the big problems we have here is if you have a patron entering on Parallel Road, they're coming down this two-way drive, they're going to have to circulate, go all the way behind Lot A, the development on Lot A, past the drive-through right here and the circulation lane, and then fight the traffic at the main entrance, which is on Highway 22, and then push all the way down just to get to Lot B. And then there's no easy way to get out. One of the things in our review with Mr. Altman that he noted was it's going to be very difficult for an emergency vehicle to be able to exit this property. One of the other things he noted was the practicality of any patron who enters on Parallel right here, they're likely going to try to take a left-hand turn on the side of the development on Lot A, which is a one-way. It is not wide enough to be a two-way. So most patrons are not going to want to go all the way around the building. They're going to try to take a left on a one-way street, which he pointed out was going to be a huge safety issue. So we assert that the most reasonable and feasible and the safest layout for the development is how is set forth in A2. However, that would require the removal of one live oak tree, but the replanting of 6. We wanted to reserve the last few minutes to see if you had any questions. And we have Mr. Altman here today if you have any questions for him directly.
I'm reckoning. What's that?
Any cards or opposition?
Wait a minute, yes. Please step back just for a second. Is there anyone here in objection to this request? And I'd like to note that we've got serious objection letters in writing from Jennifer R.S. Rockphone, Ms. Roberts, and Liz Cassani, all letters of objection in one version or another. So we do have objection. Our rules are pretty strict about, we're not allowed, I mean, you can't cut down, in St. Tammany Parish, you can't cut down a live oak tree, especially one like this and a substantial size and things like that. So I'm concerned about the precedent of cutting down a live oak tree. Would you like to comment on that?
Yes, honestly, the code provides for a way to cut the live oak in a situation like this where it completely impacts the ability to develop this property. And it's expressly stated in the Unified Development Code. And here there's no way to develop the property because of where it is located.
Well, I've reviewed, and other people have submitted comments where, there are other, we're talking about lines on a paper now. Mm-hmm. and we can move lines around and provide access to both A and B, whether it's two entrances, rather than going across both lots, we have separate entrances. I know it's more money, but.
Well, the other issue we're going to have is DOTD has made it very clear that it's likely going to be a right turn only in and out of Parallel. So with the roundabout and the taking that's going to occur, it's going to make this more difficult because there's going to be a median that goes, which may, they said, likely surpass that entrance right there. So without having an entrance and connecting the two developments, it's almost going to be unusable. So here we have a very particular situation that is not always common. When you have the roundabout, the potential widening of Parallel in the future, you have this tree which is almost in the center, and you almost are forced because of the roundabout to connect the two developments in order to make them usable as a whole. Because you're going to have a right in, right out on both sides, and there's one entrance. It's not something you see every day. And I believe the objections, if I understand correctly, because Mr. Bryant actually spoke to the residents behind, there's only one on Lot B, and there was no objection. However, those are probably, we believe, homeowners in Bell Point. Bell Point connects with Lot A. Lot A is not at issue today. Lot B is essentially where the live oak is situated.
The objections are all with regard to an 18-inch live oak tree.
Okay.
Chair, I'd like to recognize Mr. Blosh.
And I guess a couple of points we need to consider. You'd mentioned revenue, that your client could not make this work from a revenue standpoint. And I'm sure you're aware that we can't consider that. That cannot be a consideration of our decision as to whether or not your client can make money. And not that we're opposed to people making money, that's not the issue. But our guidelines clearly state that financial considerations cannot be given to a project, yay or nay, okay? The other thing, and it just breaks my heart because we keep getting cases like this, we had one like this last time. It's like a part of my soul starts to leave me. Not that I'm a huge tree hugger, but these live oak trees take forever to come back. We won't see this could be a long time before we see a tree like this, and it's already underway. They don't, I'll just say this, there's a reason we have this protection for these trees because they are disappearing, and they're disappearing quickly. And
one thing that may be helpful, Mr. Altman's a landscape architect, and what he has told us is if we develop around this tree, putting any development substantially close to this tree or near the drip line puts it at risk. We're suggesting what he had presented is planting them in the buffer zone that they maintain in an undeveloped area so will actually last longer and be in a safer area. He said more likely than not when you develop around a live oak, the live oaks don't survive.
I've seen this before where we replaced the live oak and it kept dying like 3 or 4 different times. We kept making the applicant replant, but it just wouldn't take. And I don't know what the circumstances were around it. I finally gave up and we put cement on it. And that was just horrible because it had been a beautiful oak tree previous to that. So my whole perspective on this is I get it that you want to be able to develop your property to the fullest, but there is a consideration that we are losing this. And I'm kind of like, at this point, I'm not decided completely on how to handle this, but
how do you mesh that with the fact that the code states that
I understand that.
Developable area?
I very much understand
Here it's
that.
almost in the center of the property, the drip line. So you can't really develop this property because it takes up so much of the center of the property.
I think you can.
Okay.
I don't have an answer for you. Trying to make that answer.
Recognize Mr. Swindell.
I'd just like to state that I appreciate the fact that you dug into the specific English used in the Unified Development Code and applied it here. And I especially I respect the argument that you put forward with regards to the traffic circle. Unfortunately, none of that shows in the drawing, and I think seeing that, having a better understanding of the impact that may have in the future would probably, may drive a few of the board members to slightly, at least give them more information. Anyway, I personally am a little different than what these guys are stating. I think that the code, I think the tree is quite restrictive in the way this property is designed. I think as long as the effort is put forth to replant according to the way that our Unified Development Code states, that I would tend to support this, especially with regards to the information about the traffic circle. Although I do think that you might consider postponing and having that some definitive information with regards to that and showing that on some drawings and make another run at this with this group.
Thank you. My only comment is DOTD is still engineering, so we don't know when we would have that information. They've suggested about 500,000 square feet. I will say our client has another development where they're working with DOTD, and at the last minute, they moved it completely north. So currently, where you would have it on site plan A3, it would have taken in a large portion of this building. DOTD has expressly asked our client not to build anything towards that intersection, because they said it's going to make it very difficult, of course, for them when the taking occurs at a later point in time. We're trying to prevent that altogether by pushing it more interior and utilizing the code, which allows for opportunities to do that.
Mr. Daly.
Can you talk, the Clico transformer location?
Yes.
You didn't cover that. Is that still an issue in terms of its placement?
I mean, it's going to be an issue in the sense that with the original plans, which I have, were provided, it was off-site. That was what they thought, just, seeing, aerial photos. They came on-site recently. Mr. Bryant can comment on this. In addition, we provided the letter from the electrician. Once they came out on-site, they only allowed for one location, and it has already been put in. So they said this was the only location that they said was reasonable, in order to service both lots A and B without having to go around, because they say it's not as reliable and it's more difficult, because they were gonna have to fight going around the live oak on Lot A. You can see where that live oak is and the extensive path it takes that Mr. Bryant's trying to save and maintain here. However, if we went with the site plan A3 and the two-way drive, which we have to have a drive that connects Lot A and Lot B with this roundabout, if we do it on the exterior on the backside, it goes straight through to where the transformer is already located now. Cleco's telling us they're not willing to necessarily move it, so we would have to figure that battle out.
Any other, I recognize myself. And this comment, I guess, for the board. I think historically, we have supported the trees and not cutting down the live oak trees. And I know there may have been instances, but I think we've tried to save the trees. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
You said the developer on this is a landscape architect as well?
Mr. Altman is here, who is the architect for the property and is willing to discuss anything you may.
Okay, because I maybe have a question for him that, I don't know, and this is kind of, this may seem bizarre, but I don't know that it is. I made mention of this last meeting. We had a case similar to this. I drove up and down Kelton Avenue just recently, and if you've not been out that way, you'll see the beautiful live oak trees that seem to be prospering, even though they're surrounded by concrete and by asphalt and by a constant up and down pounding of a trolley car. And I guess my question is, what would be the circumstance if you were to build under that? Is that even feasible? I'm not looking at the actual tree itself.
Yeah.
But I mean, is that even a consideration? And if so, what is the likelihood that that tree could survive?
That's a great question, and the answer is, I don't know. The trees are like people, they're all different. Mm-hmm. And that one particular tree, it may be vigorous, even though it's got some dieback on it, or it may be not doing well at all. And once you put a little bit of concrete on some of those roots, it may tip the scales the wrong way. I apologize, there's just no way to answer that.
Okay, I appreciate
that.
But
I know there are examples of that where you see that tree's just gonna die because they collar it with
right.
And it lives, and I've seen other ones where they do everything they can to save it, and it just dies. Okay. So, but I would like to say that if you do allow that one tree to be cut, the requirement is for, I think, 13.5 inches of mitigation. Mm-hmm. So we were proposing 18 inches of live oak mitigation. So there would be 6 new trees, and hopefully they'd be planted when the weather is cool. They'd be watered. You get a decent landscape contractor who knows what he's doing. Yeah. They'd give them the best chance to live.
Thank you. Good. Okay. All right, any other questions? Would somebody like to try a motion?
Make a motion. Again, in the affirmative, I'll make a motion to approve the variance as requested.
I have a,
with the planning?
Yeah, with the replanting plan that they proposed there in L2.
would you like to state the intention?
According to Plan A3 that she submitted today?
No. A3, I think, was just an illustration of
Okay.
the difficulty. I'm proposing to propose it as they have put it forth.
Okay.
In
Mitigation, okay.
It would be site
Yeah.
plan A2.
site plan A2. Yeah, with the replanning plan, it looks like L2 is a reflection of the replanning plan. So,
Thank you.
And as I understand it, you're saying to approve it so that we can vote in the negative.
well, you guys vote how you want, but I will vote for it because I appreciate I appreciate the hardship that this tree is creating, and I think the replanting plan more than makes up for it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Swindell. How about a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Swindell and a second by Mr. Daly. Any other discussion?
I'll just say that, I understand what we're bound by, and so regretfully, I think I'm going to vote for this, but it just doesn't make me happy to do it, quite frankly. It just doesn't. it's okay. Anyway, that's all.
So vote with your screen.
One nay and 4 yea. So the vote is, the request to approve the proposed plan is denied. Correct? No? No. I'm sorry.
The variance is approved.
The variance is approved, I'm sorry.
With the mitigation plan. Okay.
We just approved to cut down an 18-inch live oak tree. Just so you all understand. Okay. The next case. Next case is our case number 6. It's a BOA case 3534. Request by an applicant in a planned unit development for an after-the-fact variance to reduce the required rear yard setback from 55 feet to 41 feet, and the required northern side setback from 5 feet to 2 feet to allow for the completion of the construction of an outdoor kitchen. The property is located at 3290 Rousset Ridge Drive, Slidell, Louisiana, Ward 9, District 13. The applicant is Wayne and Felicia Nelson. The representative is First Rate Investment Services, Archie Jefferson. Staff comments, please.
The applicant is requesting an after-the-fact waiver to reduce the rear yard setback and the side yard setback to allow for the completion of the construction of a 33.4 by 24.6 outdoor kitchen. No evidence or hardship or practical difficulties has been demonstrated to warrant the support of the requested variance.
Okay. Please state your name and address, affiliation, please.
My name is Archie Jefferson, 6008 Aaron Drive, New Orleans, Louisiana, and I am the contractor.
And do you have anything else to add on this case?
I was not the contractor when the project started. They started the project with some couple of friends. I guess they kind of took their word for it. I do know them, and they do work in the industry, but they did not get the proper permits. So when they called me, I called my engineers out after we looked at the site plan and looked at the setbacks that were attached to their deed of sale, and also noted that they had a homeowners association that they had not contacted, they have now, and also that they had not spoken to the neighbors or anything else. So we put all that in place and put all that in motion, and I came here and filed the proper paperwork, spoke to code enforcement, spoke to the permit office, spoke to the homeowners association, entered all the information, pictures and everything in the portal of what's existing there now. And I also brought in my engineers, and we did a site plan to correct. We actually had to correct the setbacks and actually had to correct the plot plan because it was not the actual, it was not accurate to what it was. So we did all of that, and so we're here now to try to see if they can complete the project. It is a patio, so that'll have a bar kitchen, and it's covered. There are no, the neighbor to the right has a fence erected to the right. The neighbor to the left has signed a no objection letter. Her name is Chloe White at 3294 Rousset Ridge Drive.
Thank you, sir. If you could just step aside there for a second. Is there anybody here in objection to this? And again, I will note that there was letters from people objecting to this, and it objects your neighbor's view of the lake. it was the problems. Anyway, there were at least, I think, 2 letters of objection, so we do have that. So I'd like to recognize those objecting to the project. I don't see anybody here wanting to express it, so I open it to the board for comments and questions. Mr. Bott.
Okay, so sir, you're more or less the fix-it guy. You're tasked with trying to fix this and make it happen, right?
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Let me.
But I can respond. There's I don't understand how it's affecting anybody's view. It's to this side, the lake is behind it, and it just comes right off the house. It's not affecting the neighbor to the right view. They walk out, and there's the lake. Next to the left, walk out, there's the lake. And certainly could not affect the people across the street's view of anything because it's behind, it's in the rear of their house already. They couldn't see through the house anyway. And it's not, wide or anything that it comes around the house or stands out of the house. It's directly in line with the house itself. So I don't understand the view objections.
Right. Well, and I can appreciate what you're coming from on that. However, I will say this, a couple of things. Just so you have some historical understanding of where we come from on these types of situations.
Yes.
No permit, that's a huge no-no.
Oh, yes.
We've had several cases just like this, and they were outdoor kitchens too. And we tore them down. We asked them to tear those back down because they violated the ordinances and they did not get permission. There were reasons that they had, there were great reasons. Once the lady told us, well, we were out of town when it happened. It was like, so no. I can appreciate where you're at and the position you're in at this point in time, but quite frankly, I'm not convinced that this shouldn't be taken down in alignment with the ordinances.
Well, I understand, and I'm a kind of soft spot for people who are, and I know these guys could have and should have because I know them and they know construction, and they should have gotten it. I think the people just followed their lead on it and trusted them to the point where, and then when they got a stop work order was issued, and they called me up, and I came over and I told them just what you said, y'all in the world of trouble, that they have every right to ask you to tear it down or to shorten it up at least and things like that.
Well, I'm glad to hear what you're saying is that these guys are upstanding in the industry and construction because maybe they'll have no problem with helping these people.
Yeah.
That have been,
I think that I've spoken with a couple of them and told them that, that the people have every right to sue them and come back and get their money back, should they have to do that. I'm hoping they won't have to go through the hardship because then that's going to be difficult too, trying to get the money back. And I understand that that's not an issue before this thing. I do understand that. That's why I didn't raise it.
No. And like I said, I certainly appreciate the difficult situation you represent.
But I intend to certainly get all the proper permits and everything and to not let anybody do anything until that happens, as it should be.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson, you
Yes.
submitted a site plan, and maybe I misunderstood what you said. Is this site plan still accurate, the one that you submitted?
The one I submitted to you that's the one that my engineers did. If you see on the one that they have, their driveway on the original one is to the left, but it's actually to the right.
Okay, so I have
So we
the
had
one.
to correct that. And then the other one here, some of the numbers, when we measured and everything, they were not right, so we had to correct this. And this was attached to the original bill of sale, active sale.
Okay, but what I'm asking you is the plan that you submitted with the application, which shows 17 feet on one side, 40 foot in the rear, and about 3 feet on the side. Is that accurate?
Yes, the
Okay.
one I showed you, the one I submitted is accurate.
Okay.
That was done by Design Tech.
Okay, yes. My next question is, did you mention that you had the approval from the HOA?
I did not mention that I had the approval.
sorry.
I mentioned that we submitted everything into the portal that they asked for, and we had as far as I know, there was no objection by them unless you have something.
No, we have to have the approval in writing. And you haven't heard from the
Have not heard
Owners
from them.
Associations, you're just assuming that there's no objection. And likewise from the neighbors. We have to have
We have,
written approval.
yes, I have that letter from Ms. in writing from her. And I don't know that, as far as the portal goes, that's, the homeowners have to do that with some kind of password and some system that they have that only they could do. So I gave them everything to upload into that portal. And I actually prepared the letters of no objection. And the only one I can show you is what I have on my phone, the one from the neighbor to the left.
Unfortunately, one of the issue is that when you upload documents to the portal, we don't have a way to find out that documents have been uploaded to the portal, and that's the reason we don't have those
No, I
documents
understand
here.
clearly. Yes,
So
I do.
I'm sorry
I understand
about
clearly. Yes. I do understand. And that's, I'm an attorney as well, so when I assume nobody's done, I assume there's no objection to it, so, but
Yeah, right.
unfortunately, that's not how it works.
Recognize Mr. Swindell.
Mr. Jefferson, it appears to me that the only issue from a setback perspective is this corner on the back left of this structure.
It's a kind of a funny deal. It starts out and then it gets very narrow going back. However.
Yeah, the side, you're right, the
Yeah,
side on
yeah.
what would be the northeast corner of the
Right.
structure.
And that is where they had a little, I guess, a little storage house on that side.
Yeah.
Took it over a little bit.
So could this be modified to fit within the setbacks?
Could the, I think
regardless, I recognize that something's been built, but that doesn't really matter to us. Could you modify the design so that it fit within the setbacks?
Modify the design?
Yes. I recognize that means modify the structure, but at the end of the day, that's really not pertinent to us.
I could modify the design, the structure.
I mean, what I would encourage you to do here is to consider requesting postponement, make another run at this design so that it fits within the setbacks and meets all of the code restrictions, and then go apply for a permit. You wouldn't even have to be in front of us if the structure met the setback requirements, and it doesn't appear to me to be a huge challenge to do that. And then if it meets those setback requirements and meets all the ordinances, what the neighbors think, I don't know how much that really matters. Maybe the HOA has some more specific codes that you'd have to address, but.
No, I read there, and it's really not
I'll be honest, I'm going to vote, if I were to make a motion to approve this right now as requested, which is really just to say, leave it be, I'm going to vote no to that. So I think there's a chance for you to do something different here without costing yourself or the homeowner more money, from a permitting perspective, to make a run at making this thing fit the setbacks and then avoid this altogether.
I understand.
That's my take on it.
Okay, Mr. Saunders.
I recommend you go back to the drawing board, get all your permits, get everything in writing, get your yays and nays from the HOA, so we don't have to guess. So you can be straight up, you can get this go through, and you may not even have to come here when you get all those things as well.
Okay, Mr. Daly.
I'll cancel myself.
Mr. Rogers.
I'm not sure if I understand the train of thought here from Mr. Swindell, because if he takes it and makes the structure, modifies the structure so that it fits within the guidelines of the ordinance, then we have no issue here.
Right.
Otherwise, if he's coming back, is he coming back for a variance request or for approval?
I wouldn't even come back.
I'm sorry.
You don't have to come back. I understand.
So then at that point in time, I would suggest that we move forward with a denial then, and he does that anyway.
Yeah, all right, good point.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean.
Or postpone.
So
Well,
you.
if we're just denied, doesn't have to go fix it, but I mean, all they gotta do is cut it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm asking them to do anyway.
So he's, we want Mr. Jefferson to request a postponement?
No,
The request of postponement would be for the exact same variance request.
Right. Which we would which I would vote no to.
No, he would come back with a revised.
Revised.
Yeah, but the revised plan is going to meet, is the revised plan that I think he can develop pretty easily would
Or
be
if
within.
not-
Revised plan won't require.
Or if not, it'll be an
Right.
amended
Wouldn't require a
variance
variance.
request, so that would be a different variance. So
It wouldn't need a variance.
it wouldn't need a postponement, we'll put it that
So
way.
go back to my engineer and have him, okay.
Yes.
So we're gonna then, so I need a motion.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman,
Go
to
ahead.
deny I'll do it in the positive.
Yeah.
To approve the variance request.
Right.
Okay, I've got a motion.
I'll second that.
From Mr. Blash, knowing that we're gonna vote against it.
Well, we don't know. We don't
And,
know. We don't know.
Okay.
I will.
And then, Mr. Swindell seconded the, motion. Any other discussion? Vote with your screen.
The variance request is denied.
It's okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The next case today is our case number 7, BOA case 3535, request by an applicant in an A4 single-family residential district to reduce a northern side yard setback and the western rear yard setback from 10 feet to 3 feet to allow for the construction of an accessory structure. The property is located at 917 Crestwood Drive, Covington, Louisiana, Ward 3, District 2. The applicant and rep is Jeffrey Lacine. Staff comments, please.
The applicant is requesting to reduce the required rear and side yard setbacks from 10 feet to 5 feet to allow for the construction of a 30 by 20 detached garage. No evidence of hardship or practical difficulties that have been demonstrated to warrant the support of the requested variance. Since the property is zoned A4 single-family residential district and meets the criteria listed under the UDC, the accessory structure may be located 5 feet from the nearest interior side lot line. As per the St. Tammany Parish Floodplain Administrator, it is recommended that the accessory structure be located a minimum of 5 feet from the property line. While the property is not located in an official critical drainage area, a drainage plan will have to be submitted to confirm that water is being captured on the property and does not intrude on the neighbor's property. The neighbors abutting the property have provided no objection letters, which were added into your packet.
Okay, thank you. Who is here to represent this case? Please come forward, state your name and address and affiliation.
My name is Jeff Lasang. I live at 917 Crestwood, and I'm appealing to try and amend the setback to build a garage, two-car garage in the backyard. I've got 3 letters from the adjacent neighbors not opposing the construction. I didn't realize that I needed confirmation from the HOA, but I did forward, Mr. Cogan forwarded Ms. Cook the email from the HOA approving the garage based on the acceptance of the permit from St. Tammany Parish. So that wasn't, I apologize, that wasn't included in the packet that y'all have, but he just forwarded her the email, so you know that you got it, so.
We don't have the letter from the HOA and we don't have a,
You have, Mr. Cogan emailed it just now to Ms. Cook, so she should have the email from him.
okay, well, she's looking up that.
No, ma'am, a little while ago.
Today?
Yes, ma'am, at 2:55. He sent it to Miss Helen Lambert and Miss Erin Cook at 2:55.
Do you have, well, she's looking that up.
Yes, sir.
How about, you got anything else to add to this request?
No, sir, just that the reason I'm asking for the setback change is because the roads are not all even. Some lots are bigger than other lots. But other than that, not anything else.
Mr. Chairman, I did receive the email. If you'd like, I can read it for you.
Please read it so we'll have it in the
Says-
record.
The architectural committee approved for you to remove 4 trees in your backyard so you can erect the unattached garage structure, but asked that you not remove the trees until you receive the building permit from the parish. The Architectural Committee also agreed to approve the plans you submitted for the unattached garage if you receive a building permit from the parish or a letter from the parish saying you're not required to have a permit for the garage.
The letter does not address the setbacks, though. Am I correct?
It does not mention the setbacks.
Okay. Mr. Daly?
We only have aerials.
Wait a minute, excuse me. Is there anyone here in opposition? Seeing none, Mr. Daly, please proceed.
Thank you. We only have aerials. The current structure that's over the existing driveway, is that more of like how are you getting to the new garage? Is it through
There's a
that?
gate, there's a gate on the right side of the property, and I'm going to widen that gate. Like, there's a small gate right now, so I'm gonna make it wider. I have enough room to fit a driveway, to access the back garage. I can make that a 10-foot gate that'll open up so that I can fit my car through there.
Okay, so the southwestern side, well, whatever. As you're facing the house on the left, the opposite side of the existing driveway.
If you're facing the house, it's on the right.
Oh.
If you're facing the house.
Oh, I see. So around the current driveway.
Yes, sir. That's
Okay.
correct. There's a current driveway that's right there. It would probably be widened just a little bit. And I talked to my neighbor about that, and that's why they signed a letter, not opposing what I'm going to do.
Okay.
And then even the back neighbor asked what it was for. I explained to her what it was for, so.
I'm sorry, I'm finished for now. Yeah, sorry.
Mr. Bosch?
Okay, I have a question with regards, and this is a staff question first, and I'll ask you after the fact. Do we have any issues with side yard setbacks in terms of encroachment for a drive? And if so, what material would be required, or is there a requirement, whether it be, impervious or pervious?
Yes, Mr. Blush, the driveway will have to stay 5 feet from the side property line.
Okay. So does that present a problem for widening that access to the back? That's my question, I guess.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Okay, so we got another issue too that we didn't discuss, or it's not actually on the variance request, as I understand it. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Another issue I have too, that the 3 foot, have you considered being able to edge that over to be compliance, and why not if you had access to the building from the side yard setback? Why would you not just move the building back and be in compliance 10 feet? And you understand and realize that one of the reasons for it is because of the runoff issues for your neighbors, correct?
No, I didn't. I mean, it was going to be built in compliance with any drainage they had, and I talked to Mr. Cogan about that, and he said that he didn't see that there was any drainage issue at all. I don't have that in writing, but that's what he expressed to me, that was the last thing they were looking into before he approved. He said, yeah, go ahead and go to the meeting.
Right, and what they're saying is, how can you be sure that you're going to contain the water on your property instead of it flowing off of your roof into your neighbor's yard? 3 feet's not a whole lot, especially when you look at the slope of the roof. I'm not an engineer, but I'm just thinking it's probably going to
Well, I can put gutters around. I mean, I can put gutters around the garage. I can make the water flow like it needs to be, where it's not intruding on the neighbor's yard. But
okay, and then back to my one question. Could you? And it looks like you could move over 10 feet and actually 10 feet up to your garage.
I can't move over. I can't move 10 feet up. It would be impossible to get a car in the garage if I moved it 10 feet from the property line.
I see. You're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then even if I moved it 10 feet to the side, that would be almost in the middle of the yard.
And just want to
I'm trying to just move it to the side. I'm sorry.
I just want to bring to your attention that you can actually place the building 5 feet from the side property line because of the zoning. I don't know if you have access to the staff report.
Oh, Mr. Cogan told me 10 feet on both sides, and I apologize. I did not know that.
After further review, it was, we were able to determine that it can be placed 5 feet from the side property line. You're still required to go 10 feet from the rear, but you're allowed to go 5 feet.
No, I didn't know that.
But that presents the same problem, though. You're talking about for access, for ingress and egress of the building.
Well, 5 feet is fine.
Okay.
From the side property line. I just need to be able to go back more. I can't go 10 feet from the property
rear?
line. Yes, sir, because it'd be hitting the back of the house almost.
Okay, okay.
What material will you be using for the driveway? Because you will have to stay 5 feet from the side property line.
Concrete.
So if we do 12 minus 5, then you're at 7. Yeah, 7.
Mhm. I'm sorry, did not,
You have 12 feet, you are showing 12 feet on the side.
yes, ma'am.
So if you have to stay 5 feet from the property line, then you will considerably reduce the access to the rear.
Well, my original request was to do 3 feet from the property line.
You
But
requested.
I think we changed it to 5 feet because he thought that was more reasonable than 3 feet. I would like to go 3 feet, but I changed it accordingly, so.
I'm reading 3 feet is the request.
Yeah, I think it would be from 5 feet to 3 feet with the revised
Yeah.
finding, and that's for the northern and western setback. So the northern is the side yard, and the western is the rear yard, and the request is for 3 feet being the final setback for both of those.
I just want to bring up to your attention that while the request is for the garage to be 3 feet from the rear and 3 from the side, there's no request submitted for the driveway, and the driveway will have to remain 5 feet from the side property line.
Okay, so no access in terms of a structure. Right, right.
So do I need to postpone this to resubmit to do 3 feet?
Well, I was going to
from
ask
the-
that too. Would you have to advertise that as a part of the variance request, or it could be handled here?
That's correct. It would have to be re-advertised.
Okay, then yeah,
Then I request to postpone it, I guess.
yeah.
I do too. Mr. Swindell?
So why not rotate the garage 90 degrees and push it further in their backyard and meet the required setbacks?
Because I wouldn't be able to meet the 10-foot setback from the back of the property line.
Well, I mean, I think if you shifted it closer to your house, you could. You know, it's 30 feet wide. If you put it abutting to the back of your current garage and rotate it at 90 degrees, so you
Well,
could turn into it. Then you could meet the 10 feet, and then you'd easily meet the side yard setback.
Oh, I see what you're saying, rotating the property,
Yeah.
the building.
What it doesn't show is on the back side of my house is a shed. There's a door on the back side of my house that's facing the backyard, so that has access to a shed.
So you would have to resolve that, but physically, it would be possible to do that.
And not with 10 feet from the back fence.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I recognize the difficulty.
If I
It's
do a
just-
30-foot wide garage, 10 feet from the back fence, I wouldn't have any access to the other side of my yard if they had to have plumbing issues or whatever had to access back there. I'm sorry, I don't.
No, I mean, look, I understand the difficulty. I just think that, essentially you're asking us to overlook these variances, and I recognize your neighbor's okay with it, but at the end of the day, you're asking us to overlook these setback requirements. And there are other alternatives. You know, they might cost you money, but there are alternatives to what you're trying to do here and still satisfy you getting a 2-car garage, an additional 2-car garage.
But if like you said, turn it 90 degrees, and the distance from the back property line is 41 feet, if I turn it 90 degrees and I'm taking 30 feet for the garage wide, well, 10 plus 30 is 40. I would only be 1 foot from my house. I couldn't access my back shed. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to make sure you understand why I'm putting it the way it was, because I've tried a couple of different plans, but this seems the most practical.
No, I understand that. I just wanted to recognize that, this isn't a hardship. I mean, this is totally,
That's the point.
this is totally a matter of convenience, that you'd like additional storage and you're asking us to overlook the setbacks so you can get additional storage for whatever. Whether it was cars, lawnmowers, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Can I just interject? Because you bring up a very good point. And I think what you need to understand is when we grant a variance, it has to be based upon some sort of hardship. There's no hardship expressed here. There's no problem here aside from that you just want this here. And I can appreciate and understand that you do. Why wouldn't you? But what we're suggesting is, hey, try and work with us on this. We can't prove that it's a hardship. So we have to find other alternatives, and that's what we're looking to try and do, is to help you find an alternative to this.
I just don't see how turning it 90 degrees would be an alternative. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Right, well, I mean, it may not be something that works for you, but what we're saying is this variance request doesn't work for a hardship plea, if you're following the whole process of a hardship and a variance request. It has to be some sort of, hey, I got a problem that can't be solved. I need your help to allow me to do this because of this inherent problem.
Well, I don't have any storage for the car. That's the problem. I mean, I know it doesn't sound like a hardship to you. I understand that.
No.
If you're not in the cars, and I get it. But I have a car trailer. I have, I have tools that I need to be able to put, and right now I can't fit it where I'm at. And that's the only reason I'm asking to get this other garage filled. So I understand to a certain definition, it may not be a hardship, but.
Well, we have to, and our counsel could read you the actual definition of a variance request and what standards have to be met if you wanted to do that. But trust me when I tell you that that's the reason that we're having a hard time dealing with this. We'd love to say, yeah, hey man, go ahead and put it up. We love it. Your neighbors say it's great, but it's watering down our whole variance process. Otherwise, why even have a variance process? You follow me?
Okay. I got a note to myself that, and it looks like we're heading towards something else, but that we need a new drainage plan?
Well, that's
We
going
need
to
to
come
advertise.
with the driveway, but this doesn't address the
No, I
driveway.
read that someplace. I mean, someplace that said a new if we have to redo this or do something, we need a new drainage plan.
Well, as per the St. Tammany Parish Floodplain Administrator, it is recommended that the accessory structure be located a minimum of 5 feet from the property line. And while the property is not located in an official critical drainage area, a drainage plan will have to be submitted to confirm. So whenever they apply for the building permit, the drainage plan will have to be submitted.
That's what it was. Okay.
Okay.
Where are we?
Well, as I understand it, we have to re-advertise this, correct? In order for us to even be able to
Because of the
consider
driveway.
it, because of the driveway. Number two, I think that it would behoove you to have some sort of, blessing from your homeowners association that talks about the side yard setbacks. So it just says, oh yeah, you can put a garage back there, but this, and it doesn't address the issues of the side yard setbacks. It's always good to have their blessing to move forward.
I submitted the drawing to them. That's what I had to do to get approval. So that's what that email
Right.
is.
No, I understand, but what I'm saying is I think we need explicit language that says, hey, we're okay with this 5 yard set, or 5 foot, a 5 foot setback or 3 foot setback or whatever it is that you're applying for. That's number two. Was there anything else? I think that was it at this point.
You mentioned the drive. I mean, it's got to have the driveway.
Oh, yeah, the material of the driveway that you would want to use.
Yeah, because I'm assuming the driveway is going to encroach the setback too.
It is.
Yeah.
So those are the three things. If you want to request, to wait on this and move forward.
That's fine. I'll request that, please.
Okay.
So you're going to request a postponement?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because I don't think we can vote on it anyway, the way it is.
Yeah.
With the drive.
We have to.
I'll make a motion to postpone.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Swindell and a second by Mr. Blige to postpone this case?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the request to postpone will have to be to the December meeting because we have already advertised for the November meeting.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
He's good.
Okay.
So how can I get formal documentation of exactly what I need to bring next? Okay,
Well, I will call you and we'll be
Okay.
happy to set up a meeting with you.
okay. Thank you.
Okay. No further discussion? Keep up with the screen
It was postponed from Mr. Swindell and
To-
second,
by Mr. Blige to the December meeting.
motion
Okay.
carries.
The next case is case number 8, BOA case 3536, request by an applicant in an A2 suburban district to reduce the required 50-foot no-cut buffer along the southern side property line to 25 feet for 65 linear feet to allow for the construction of an accessory structure. The property is located on the east side of Gitz Lane, Madisonville, Louisiana, Ward 1, District 4. The applicant is Mr. John Devon. I should know that. I duck hunted with this guy. I should remember his name. Representative is Boudreaux Builders, Clayton Boudreaux.
Yep.
Staff comments, please.
Yes, sir.
The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the required 50-foot southern side yard buffer to 25 feet for 65 linear feet and for approximately 45 feet. There must be a typo in this staff report. To allow for the construction of an accessory building. The subject property is 3 acres in size and 283 foot wide. No evidence or hardship or practical difficulty has been demonstrated to warrant the support of the requested variance to reduce the required 50-foot no-cut buffer. There's also another request in regards to the accessory building, which is proposed to be 31 foot long, 31 foot wide, and 55 foot long for a total of 1,705 square foot. Although no hardship has been demonstrated, staff is not opposed to the request, considering that the accessory structure will be located on a 3-acre tract of land.
Please state your name and address and your affiliation.
My name is John Devon. I live at 100 Beau Rivage in Mandeville, Louisiana. I'm affiliated as a property owner with this lot that we bought about 3-4 years ago. We're looking to build a home on it, and I do woodworking, so I want my wood shop in there. And what we're requesting is for the shop to be actually just pushed over a little bit so I can actually not have it in the view of my backyard type thing. And also, if I would actually have to shift the property over to the left, it would be asymmetrical on the property. As it is now, the total property buffer zone that will be allowed on this is 59,000 square feet, over 59,000 square feet. I'm asking for 1,600 square feet of it not to be buffer and to move that building over just about 15 feet, 13 feet or so it won't encroach on the backyard of the property. Being 54 feet, I think is what it's going to be, is 40 feet with a 14-foot lean-to in the back will allow it not to have a sticking out portion where it would stick out and this way it's going to be in the back of the building. It won't be seen from the street or anything like that. There's plenty of green space in there that we're going to keep on there for our own sake. It's just a place for us to put my woodworking shop, and we've reduced the hard landscaping of a driveway to it. We took that out and just put a driveway to the garage. What we're asking for is just a very small portion of the almost 60,000 square feet of buffer space to be utilized for just moving over that building just about 20, 25 feet.
Please step back, sir.
Yes, sir.
Just over the side. Anyone here in objection to this request? And I'll point out that, and I'll recognize myself, we have no objection letters or nobody seems to be objecting to this. I wrote a note to myself. Is there an HOA?
No, sir.
No HOA.
I talked to Mr. Joe Regard, who is south of me, and we had a very cordial conversation about it, and it went all very well.
Okay. Step back over. Mr. Swindell.
I talked to Mr. Joe Regard once he saw the yellow sign go up, and we had a very cordial conversation about it, and he said his wife was going to show up to support me, but she's not here today and stuff. He's in Europe with his wife or something like that, or his mother. And but we had a very cordial conversation about it, and it's going to be a nice building with fiberboard like hardy plank with board and batten type things, same color as the house, so it kind of looks like that type thing and stuff. So this is our final home area, so we're not going to skimp on anything type thing. So for the neighborhood. So.
Mr. Swindell.
Mr. Devon, I'm a civil engineer by education, so I appreciate your desire to keep this as symmetrical as possible.
Yes, sir.
However, you have 3 acres, and I just can't support cutting down more than necessary just so you don't have to look at the garage from your back porch. I can't find a reason to support putting it in the location and giving you the ability to cut down more of the no-cut buffer than is necessary. I think there's options. If you don't want to see it, just shift the house over a little bit, or, there's just so many options here to do something different. I'm just telling you, I can't support it.
Mr. Dale?
Yeah, I think in the past, we've supported when the structure exceeded the, linear outline to be, if it was on a certain lot size, but I don't remember giving a buffer variance based on lot size. Just talking consistency and that sort of thing. So I'm just stating that I think we've usually done it by the size of the accessory dwelling unit, not the status of the buffer. It's a comment to the board in terms of consistency and precedent.
Mr. Blash?
Okay, with regards to our 50-foot buffer, no-cut buffer, that's sort of been a sacred rule here that we don't violate that. With a few exceptions, we have. Some of the things that you've talked about, Mr. Daly, and additionally, we've had some issues where people need to drive access to their property, whether the contour of the property just didn't allow for a straight in, and they had to utilize that 50-foot cut buffer. But there has always been a good reason. I, unlike Mr. Swindell, like visual tension. I don't like conformity. And so I would have to disagree with him on that. But I have to say this too. I would feel almost hypocritical after this gentleman just walked out the door and I told him, you haven't shown me a hardship. And I don't see a hardship here. I think that we have to be consistent in our decision-making process, although that everything is not always the same. But myself, I can't see myself telling one man yes and one man no for basically a same situation or similar situation, and that there is no hardship that has been expressed or shown.
There's almost 60,000 feet of buffer zone. I'm asking for 1,250 feet of not to be.
Right, I understand that, sir. I do. And I understand that there is a rule that says 50-foot no cut. I don't know why.
Yeah, if you had the same regulations on a 40-acre lot, it would only take up 1/8 of that space. This is taking up almost 45%.
Right, I understand.
And I'm asking for less than 3% variance, not of the whole thing,
No, I get
just
it.
of 65 feet.
I get it. And there again, give me a good reason for a hardship and we'll go forward with it. I don't see it.
I think the hardship is that it's unnecessary basically to shift something over to make it look abnormal. Okay.
I don't know that that's one of the hardships.
Well,
that we
I'm
can
going to
accept.
live there, so it is for me.
Right, I understand, and I apologize, but that's not something we can consider.
Mr. Swindell?
Yeah, I just want to point out that we should take this up in two fashions, right? The one for the no-cut buffer and the other for the size of his accessory building. I don't have an issue with the size of the accessory building, I just have an issue with the no-cut buffer. So just whenever we make motions, we should make two.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, would you like to make a
Yeah,
motion?
so again, I'll do this in the affirmative. I'll make a motion just for relative to the 50-foot side yard buffer that we approve the variance to let him reduce his side yard buffer.
And so, we got a motion by Mr. Swindell, a second by Mr. Saunders, just on the no-cut buffer.
Correct.
We're going to do that, and then we'll do another one. Is that your intention?
Yes.
Good. Please vote with your screen.
The request to reduce the side yard buffer is not approved.
Okay.
Right, so I'll make a second motion to approve the size of the accessory building exceeding what's allowable to go to that 1,705 square feet as a.
So we have a motion by Mr. Swindell to approve the size of the accessory building. Do I have a second? And a second by Mr. Saunders. Any other discussion? Vote with your screen.
Motion
passed.
carries.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We've already addressed our case number 9. So now we move on to case number 10, which is BOA case 3538. Request by an applicant in an A2 suburban district to increase a maximum allowable size of a boathouse from 800 square feet to 1,000 square feet on a state-designated scenic river. The property is located at 60187 Sherwood Drive, Lacombe, Louisiana, Ward 7, District 7. The applicant and representative is Kenneth Connect. Staff comments, please.
The applicant is requesting a 200-foot variance to reconfigure an existing 12 by 24-foot boathouse to a 16 by 45-foot boathouse on Bayou Lacombe, which according to the Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries is listed as a natural and scenic river from its headwaters to Lake Pontchartrain. Although no evidence of hardship or practical difficulties have been demonstrated to warrant the support of the requested variance, it should be noted that over 400 feet of the applicant's property runs along the river, therefore protecting this portion of the river's bend from further encroachment from boathouses being built on neighboring lots. Staff is not opposed to this request.
Okay. Please state your name and address and your, go ahead.
Kenneth Connett, 11649 Powell Station Road, St. Francisville, Louisiana.
You have anything else to add to this request?
Could you please repeat the size of the boathouse dimensions that was requested?
The existing appears to be 12 foot by 24 foot. The proposed appears to be 16 foot by 45 foot.
No, it's roughly 20 by 50 is what was requested, center to center of the ponds.
That's 1,000.
Right.
Your request was advertised to 1,000 square feet.
Yes, ma'am. And
So if I could interject, it could be that I misunderstood the hand drawings that were given, but the request was advertised correctly.
Okay, where are we?
Any opposition? Any opposition?
Is there anyone here in opposition to this request? Seeing none, any of the board have any questions for Mr. Connect? Seeing none?
Oh, it's just a question.
Mr. Blanche?
Yes, sir. Is Mr. Connect?
That's fine.
Connect, okay, I'm sorry. You wanted to increase the size of the boathouse that exists at this point in time, or I'm trying to understand
Correct.
what's going on here?
Correct.
Okay, and what's the reason for that?
That was an existing boat shed for a couple of small boats. I bought the property. We're building a home, or second home there. And the boat, obviously, it won't fit in that boat shed. It's 24 by 24, and the boat's 46 feet long. So, and it's over 16 feet wide, so obviously can't fit. So what we want to do is dredge. It's dredged into the property now, that boat shed. So we're going to continue to, obviously, we've got to get Corps permits and DNR. Rather than bringing the boat shed out into the bayou, which isn't a good idea, we'd bring it back into the property so that the boat doesn't protrude into the bayou. And you just need a home for it big enough for to house the boat.
Can staff give us some sort of historical information with regards to why the limitation on the size of the boathouses? Because I'm trying to understand better why that is. And also, as he's saying, I'm assuming he's going to need some sort of approval from the Corps of Engineers to do that work.
Well, actually, the Scenic Rivers Group, Mr. Davis, I believe, was the head of that, stated that he would have no issues with the boat shed being that size. He actually went out and looked at the property.
Okay.
And said he would have no issues with the boat shed being 1,000 square feet, provided the parish granted a variance for the extra 200 square feet.
I'm trying to understand, is this more of an aesthetic issue, or is it a practical issue? I don't understand what the limitation is.
It's aesthetic.
Okay.
Would you like me to answer the question?
I'm sorry?
Would you like me to answer your question?
Of course.
So basically, when you're on a scenic river, at times, this is a particular case because he has more than 400 foot of frontage, which is not always the case. And, because to limit the size of the boathouse, and also sometimes it's just, sticks out very deep into the scenic river. So that's the reason for this regulation. In this case, it's a little bit different, as I said, because of the frontage along the bayou that is on this particular property. So that's one of the reasons. And I also confirmed with Sabrina Shank in our office where she was aware of the request, and I brought this up to her attention, and she said she didn't have no objection as well. She reviews all the core permits request,
Okay.
and was going to add that documentation to it as well.
Okay. And I guess my only question further on that would be, I know we within our rights to do some sort of exception if other conditions exist like this. And I'd ask you if there are other circumstances where we've approved requests like this.
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
Okay. Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Mr. Swindell?
I can appreciate the desire to increase the size of your boat shed and living on a waterway. Or because you're increasing the depth from away from the river from 24 to 50 feet, essentially you're doubling the depth. What are you going to lose for trees there? Are there trees that you've got to cut down in order to dig that out and put your sheet piles and stuff in?
2.
Are you taking any steps to mitigate that?
Yeah, I actually talked to the Scenic River people, and they said, would I plant some more trees? Well, I plan on planting somewhere along the order of a dozen live oaks or sand oaks anyway on the property, and then I'm going to add some cypress trees.
All right, so I guess my question to you is...
One of them was a pine tree.
So. Yeah, we're not as worried about pine trees as much, but would you be willing to formalize that? And then, I mean, maybe we can put that into the request that he provide some. I mean, can we word that into an approval motion that he provides some layout of current trees that he's going to lose, and provide a replanting plan or something?
Yes, you can.
Because I think in that fashion I would support it if you're going to do that. I think it's important that we maintain the scenic waterways, but you're going to make something that's, I think, quite nice looking, as long as it fits within what we've got there. So I think I'm good.
Can I just have one more question from staff? Because like I said, I definitely don't want to seem hypocritical when we make these decisions. Obviously, every case is different. I know that one of the exception rules is that if it benefits the parish, then we can make those decisions in the affirmative. And I would question, you said that at some point in time, you could put it outside of into the bayou itself or into the waterway. But you'd rather not do that, you'd have it on the inside. Is that correct?
Well, it's a hazard. In other words, if you put the boat into the bayou is fairly narrow.
Okay.
And so if you were to put the boat shed into the bayou, or for that matter, if you ran it parallel to the bayou, it still has to go out 20 feet into the bayou. This way, it protects the bayou and anyone on the bayou, and the boat shed is actually on land.
Okay.
It's physically inside the property.
So nothing prohibits it
in
from
a
doing.
curve.
What I'm saying is nothing prohibits it from parking the boat on the bayou right now at this point in time, right?
Well, no, he could anchor it out there without any issue, but he may not get approval to put pilings
Right.
Right.
The Corps would have more issues with
Okay.
putting the piling out into the bayou than it
Okay.
would bring.
And
it
so,
into the-
and so I guess I'm building a case that this would be, in the positive, or would benefit the parish in the sense that it would be safety, and
Yes, sir.
aesthetically too, it would be better. So I'm just having a hard time, I don't want to, there again, we don't see a real hardship here. There isn't. But there should be an exception if it does benefit the parish in some fashion or way, so.
Okay. Mr. Daly?
Yeah, I guess now I've organized my thoughts. So we've talked about the horizontal depth. What about, I mean, I have a feeling that part of the regulation with the scenic river is about actually the vertical structure aspect of it. Does it need to be a vertical structure, or could it just be a, just the mooring that goes into the property?
Well, it has to be tall enough for the boat. The boat's roughly 10 feet tall.
Right. Well, I guess,
Above water.
does it need a vertical structure for the boat?
A roof?
Yeah, a roof, yeah.
I like to, it's on Treasure Isle now in a 30 by 50 boat shed, which is covered. And by covering the boat, it protects the boat. It's easier to work on it when it's covered. So rather than a boat slip, we're building a boat house to cover the boat. And that's not an issue whether it was 800 feet or 1,000 feet, it would still have a roof. There is a limitation of, I believe it's, Ms. Lambert went over it with me, the height of the boat shed relative to the height of the house. There are some guidance there that she gave me, and I understand what that is. So we're going to comply with what she gave me.
No variance requested for the height.
Okay, yeah, I guess I just want to square that. So really, when you get down to it, this variance is sort of on the interior land side of the property, not on the water side.
Correct.
Right, not horizontally necessarily. Yeah, which would be along the river frontage.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'm sorry, now I'm looking at this again. If you go 50 feet back, we don't have any surveys or anything that show your property and show this boathouse. You're not going to create any setback issues because your property gets quite narrow down there. You're not going to have any side yard setback issues in that if he goes to 50 feet.
It's 150 feet wide at that point where the boat shed is.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're only coming 25 feet.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, good.
You want to try a motion? Mr.
Sure,
Swindell?
I'll make a shot. I'll take a shot at this. I will make a motion to approve the variance with the condition that Mr. Connect submit a plan showing the trees that he has to remove in order to install the boat shed and a replanting plan to make up for those trees.
We've got a motion and a nod from Mr. Connect. We got a motion by Mr. Swindell to approve it as requested with the replanting of a tree recognition of what's going to be cut, what's going to be replaced, as he mentioned. So got a motion by Mr. Swindell. Need a second. Got a second by Mr. Saunders. Any other discussion? Vote with your screen.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. The last case for today is our case number 11. It's BOA case 3551, request by an applicant in an A3 suburban district for a waiver of the required 50-foot no-cut buffers along the eastern, western, and southern property lines, and a waiver of the required 25-foot no-cut buffer along the northern property line. The property is located at 62285 Highway 1091, Pearl River, Louisiana, Ward 8, District 14, and the applicant and representative is Van and Lisa Robin. Staff comments, please.
The request consists of a waiver of the required no-cut buffers on each side of the property. While staff recognizes the constraint of the property, such as the presence of a servitude of passage to Lot C and B, an odd-shaped lot, it appears that some of the required buffers could be maintained. Should the board be in favor of the waiver of all the required buffer, it should be subject to preserving the existing live oak tree located in close proximity to Robert Road, planting 10 live oak trees as shown on the drawing, and planting of the shrubs to create buffers along the property lines.
Please state your name, address, affiliation.
Excuse me, because I'm hoarse, I'm sorry. We live at, Lisa Robin, we live at 974 Lakeshore Boulevard. This is property that we purchased to build a barnuminium.
Let's see.
Just say your name.
Van Robin, 974 Lakeshore Boulevard, Slidell, Louisiana.
Do you have anything to add to the case?
Yes.
So what we want to discuss is the property configuration. Do y'all have the drawing? Because I'm not sure if y'all have the drawing. Okay, the configuration of the property is not actually a square. It's more like the shape of like a hammer. So with the back part of the property being approximately 200 feet in the front, 2 acres in the front being an acre. The way we was wanting to do this piece of property was, right now it's not cleared and we want to clear the property in order to create what we have on the drawing. There's a lot of brush on the property that we had someone come out and look at the trees that were there currently and what was usable and what was not usable. So we had an arborist come out and look at that. There's an oak tree in the driveway that we can work around the driveway and keep that tree. It's in good shape. There's a tree in the back of the property that he said had termites, and he wasn't sure if it could be saved. If we could save it, that would be great. We would like to do that. And then there's another one in the back of the property that's supposed to be on the side of the property that's supposed to be in good shape. We'd like to keep that one as well. We would like to take the brush out around the perimeter of the property, and then, because it's kind of small pine trees and just kind of funky brush, and we want to create something pretty around there with some new trees and with some new shrubbery around the house. In the front of if you look at the picture on Robert Road, in the front of the highway, it's actually like an S-turn. It comes like an S-turn. So we have concerns about the safety in that area. So we want to take the front of that and put a fence 50 feet back and then do a 100-foot recessed remote gate to enter, because we have a 75-foot motorhome with so that's the motorhome with the trailer that goes with it, stacker trailer. So that's 75 feet. So to get that in, we would like to do a recessed 100 feet there so that we can get it off of the road before we go into the neighborhood or into the driveway, because we want to fence it and secure it. The house.
We're looking to put a fence around the whole property to secure the property. On the, let's see, there's the north. On the eastern side, I know the power line's gonna have to come in there. We can't go underground electrical, so they're gonna have to go overhead. So the remaining of the trees that's to the back of it, they're gonna have to be removed just to get the power to the building and that, and to keep all the sewer, the water lines and anything else that's gonna have to take place. We wanna keep it all on that eastern side. Mostly all of that is cleared now, today. But the rest of the property around the back, they have some old creosote pilings that made up a fence back years back. We wanna really take all that out because it's a threat to everything that's around there, because it's made out of old railroad ties that's was staked in the ground. We want to clear out that back and take all this old debris out of there. And in the front is the same way. They did the across the front with railroad cross ties. That's that's not safe to the environment or anything. We want to clear up the property and clean it up to where we can build a nice facility in that. They have a few nice oak trees on the property. We just need to, after it's cleared, we'll get a better direction of exactly where they at, like exactly where, a survey of exactly where they're at. One is kind of close to where we want to put the building, but they did not measure it exactly. It's close. But after it's surveyed and everything and cleared, then we'll know exactly where that tree is. In the building, we may have to move it over 10 feet.
Okay. Since it's only us, is there anyone else in objection? Is there anyone here in objection to this request for variance? Seeing none, open it to the board. Oh, I recognize myself. Who owns Lot C?
So Lot C,
It's for sale.
yeah, that one's for sale. Lot,
The Lambert family owns that.
so the
It's-
people own all the acres together, and then when somebody passed away, they split it up, which
They
is why
split it
this
up in
lot's
this
kind of shaped kind of funny. Lot C may be purchased from the gentleman in Lot B's daughter, maybe. It's talk about it. Don't know yet for sure. It's just, it's available, but I think in the back of Lot C may be,
It has a little bit of wetlands.
it has
at the
like
back.
wetland toward the back of C.
Okay, thank you.
But we're kind of like in the middle of all of it, yeah.
Recognize Mr. Swindell.
Just so that I'm clear here, your request to us is to allow you to not have, just eliminate the no-cut buffers altogether.
Well, what's there is just like kind of trash, so we kind of just want to clean it up and just make it look prettier.
It was a pasture at one time.
Yeah. I mean, when I look at the aerial view, it looks, I mean, it's hard to tell, but it's, there's obviously a lot of green on it. Whether it's trash or what, you can't tell from the aerial view. But I mean, you guys have been now through the whole meeting and you've heard the conversation. I'm really hard pressed to just say, yeah, go ahead and cut it. I recognize you're going to make it look better. You know, like we've been charged with trying to maintain this unified development code, and I mean, obviously there's some leeway, especially where hardships are considered. But you know, I think the driveway, you know, reducing no-cut buffers so you can make the driveway through that narrow section, that obviously makes a lot of sense. But eliminating the no-cut buffer altogether on the back part of the property, it just doesn't make sense to me. And I know I understand the drives and everything now that I hear you have an RV and a big trailer and you want to do the barn dominium thing. So I understand the necessity for drives into that building, but in itself, that doesn't make for a hardship. That hardship's only created by the size of the house that you want to build and the equipment that you own. It's not a hardship that the property itself is creating. And so, look, I'm hesitant to, as you show it, I'm hesitant to vote for this. I think what I would rather see is if some effort to preserve the buffers on each side of especially in the back, preserve those buffers on each side, would make at least a case for letting me vote in an affirmative fashion on this in the future.
Where that comes into play is all on railroad 15, 20 feet from the property line is the railroad fence. So we're gonna keep hazardous waste on the property. That's why I wanted to take it out in that back section. Because if you go actually look at the property, the fence it's less than 25 feet where they had put this fence for the cattle years ago. And it's made out of old railroad ties. And what's grown through it is just a nightmare.
Yeah, and then look, I mean, I think
And it's
historically.
in the pictures, if you want to look at the pictures that we submitted to.
No, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but like if you were to go dig up in our minutes, in the time I've been on this board, we at least granted I don't know the size of the variance, but there was a property owner that wanted to install some fencing. Granted, you're wanting to take the fence down, but install some fencing, and we were very careful about the amount of space we gave him to do that. And that property owner still preserved a no-cut buffer on the inside of that fence line that we allowed him for fence installation and maintenance. And it's that type of effort that would help persuade me to vote in a positive fashion for this. Without any effort for that, right now I would vote no on this.
Right, well, we're looking to put a fence around the property. It's useless for me to build this and put this there if I can't secure it.
I agree. But, I mean, all you've got is just planting a few trees, and there's no other buffer between you and the adjacent property owners, as our Unified Development Code says there should be.
If you're looking between where we are now and
The eastern line.
Lot B, that whole side
It's
is already clear. So when they moved in B and built B, they cleared that because they had to build,
It would have to be cleared anyway to get electricity, water, sewer, gas, everything back there.
Okay, well, I mean, look.
It's either you're gonna save the oak, either you're allowed to save what's good trees there.
Look, just for the record, I love the effort up front. Along the highway, I think it's great, and honestly, you figure out what you have to maintain in that narrow section up in the front of the property. I just think there should be more in the back of the property, and what you heard us advise other people that were in front of us earlier was take the feedback we're giving, and you have a chance without costing you any more money or time to apply, to wait and reapply for variance.
Yeah, well, we're not worried about what it's gonna cost, because actually, we just want it to look really nice. We want to build this. Right now, currently, we have a 1,400 square foot building that we house cars in, and he collects muscle cars and hot rods. So what we want to do is just build something bigger back there for him.
Yeah.
We want to be able to come in and out with the motorhome, with the trailers to take them.
I get it.
We would keep everything we can that's salvageable, but what he was talking about with the railroad tires and all,
That has to come out.
it just looks junky. So anything
It's
as
a
far as
nuisance anyway.
making it look pretty or putting up trees or bushes or brush, we would be able to do all that. We just don't want it to look kind of crappy around the fence line where we got to, keep that maintained.
Look, so without dragging this on, I think you need to dig into the Unified Development Code and understand what the no-cut buffers are asking, and really understand the intent of what those are doing. And I understand what y'all are saying, but there's no effort right now to do anything to get close to that. And so, as it stands, if you bring this to a vote here, I'm going to vote no.
Yeah, we could discuss that. This is what we started. We didn't know.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've ever been before a board. We don't know what to do. We just kind of like,
We're
when we
just looking
spoke
to
to
clear the
them.
land some.
Yeah, we just
My
said,
advice,
"Well,
now I may not be the only one voting no, but if you're trying to convince me to vote yes, what I would recommend is to postpone this and take a shot at real landscape design, do something to preserve those no-cut buffers around the backside of your property. That is what's going to convince me to do something different.
How do we fence this? Are you going to allow us to cut 5 feet or 10 feet around the perimeter of the property to fence it? It's useless to me if I can't fence it.
We're not in the fencing business or, advising you on how to fence a property.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Daly.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much in agreement with Mr. Swindell, especially about the front. That's not really an issue. It's the back and the vagueness. And I don't think the no-cut buffer prevents you from removing the railroad ties in any way or, touching that at all.
Well, trees are hooked in it, they grew up in it.
Yeah.
We have to pull the trees out with the rail.
It's pine trees.
They're large trees that
Yeah,
are
they're really
within it.
large pine trees. And then that was the other thing that we were discussing with the arborist too. He was saying that because of the trees, it's so congested that when you start cleaning everything out, that those big tall trees could be hazardous.
Could fall, yeah.
It's a
Right,
fall. So
so-
we don't know.
Yeah, usually what we'll see in this case is more detail, especially in the back end, about what is being preserved, what's being removed, that kind of thing. And that's, I think, the level of detail that we're asking for is sort of the tree inventory and what would be removed.
Is it possible to start clearing it and see what we have as we go? No?
It depends on the caliper size
Yeah, because we
of
don't.
the tree.
We've walked it, but it's really thick and it's kind of hard to really look and judge. So I guess what we're here for is to find out what do we
The
need to
arborist
do.
would be the one that would be the tree inventory person, more than likely.
Mr. Bosch?
Yeah, again, going back to the case just a moment ago with the 50-foot cut, there have been exceptions to that rule, and certainly on the west side of the property, that would be an exception to allow for you to have ingress and egress to your property, to your garage, and that's been really one of the biggest reasons we've allowed that. And it's not for the whole width of that western side of your property, it's just where that driveway would come in, so that it allows you to have the turning radius to get in. Along that section that says, well, again, on the west side, those areas that are not part of that driveway, we need to maintain the 50-foot buffer, as well on the east side and on the rear. This is country property, and I think a lot of people need to understand that. This is country, and we maintain those 50-foot buffers for a reason, okay?
If we take the 50-foot from all around, then the 3 acres that we purchased is going to be down to an acre.
Listen what I'm saying. We'll allow you to make some exceptions where it's necessary, and we've
Right.
allowed that in the past. But just to say no, just a blanket, no, we don't want to put it on the east, west, or north side. That, we can't allow that. We just really can't. So
Can we reduce it?
I would suggest that you listen to what Mr. Swindell had offered. Come back with a plan that, fits the guidelines. You can usually utilize the staff to get an idea of what we need to do.
Okay.
And then put together a plan that we think, that they think would work. But just to throw a blanket out there and say, we don't really want to put the trees because it was pasture at one time anyway, and it
Right.
doesn't matter. That doesn't really fit, like you said, the unified,
But can you answer the question about putting a fence around the property?
No, well, they don't,
No,
that's
no.
not part of what they do.
No, I
Okay.
mean, you can get some guidance from the staff in terms of the building permit and that sort of thing, because you're gonna have to have a permit for that, I'm assuming, anyway. But yeah, the idea is to maintain as much, of the canopy as possible, because it's disappearing. I
Right.
grew up here originally, and man, there was trees everywhere.
Yeah, me
Now
too.
they're just disappearing, and that's the reason people are coming here, and it just amazes me, because people come in here and they say, I love the trees, and then they cut them down. And so that's what we're trying to protect and maintain, is that quality of life and what these
We
trees
don't want to
represent.
touch any of the good
Yeah.
tree. No, we don't, because I'm a tree person too.
Okay,
I'm a
good, good.
Big oak tree person.
Awesome.
So the oak trees that's there is beautiful, and that's what I loved about this
Right.
part of this
Yeah.
property. But we were just talking about like all the big tall pines or the little
Yeah.
pines or the brush and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
just
not
to
only
make it-
are they pretty, but they actually serve a function in terms
Right.
of flooding and everything else. So there's,
Right.
there's a lot of reasons for this, so. okay.
Yeah, so I guess we just need to go back and
Yeah,
discuss.
give it staff and work with it. I would
Okay.
suggest you take his advice, because it's good advice.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Somebody want to,
Would you like to do that? I guess is the
Yeah,
question.
get a continuance.
want to postpone
Yeah.
and come back?
Yeah.
They're nodding their head for postponing it.
Okay.
We need a motion.
I'll make a motion to postpone.
Got a motion from Mr. Swindell and a second from Mr. Saunders to postpone this case. Everybody vote with your screen.
Motion carries. All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our cases. How about, what we got, old business, new business? We'll do old business first. I don't know that we have any old business. Any old business? No old business? How about new business? What we got next month?
Do we have an appointee yet?
No. And we're looking to the council to have an appointee with consideration for our geographical diversity. I.e., let's get somebody from Lacombe. Okay. What do we got for cases next?
Three new cases plus the ones that were postponed today.
Can we advertise any of them? Is that what President's like in time?
Well, some were postponed, may not have to be re-advertised. Some will have to be re-advertised.
Just the one, will need to be re-advertised.
Okay. How are we looking? People gonna be here next month? I intend to be here. And Ms. Thomas should be back from Greece.
I believe it's in the second week of November, right?
The meeting is
No.
on a Wednesday on November 1st.
November 1st.
Wednesday? Wednesday.
What, I'm sorry, what is it?
The meeting is on Wednesday, November 1st. The 1st of November,
Okay.
which is a Wednesday.
Why are we on Wednesday?
Because if I am not mistaken, it's election the following week. And then the Mondays before, so we had to reschedule.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.